My entitled roommate and his girlfriend are constantly screaming at the top of their lungs and meowing like cats all day long. And since they're unemployed and have refused to get jobs, they quite literally stay inside all day screaming around the apartment, disturbing not only me, but probably my neighbors as well. And after dealing with this for so long, I feel like I'm at the edge of my patience, as my roommates literally said they refuse to change for me, as this is just who they are and that I need to accept that. And so now I feel like I'm at a crossroads because at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. I live in a 2-bedroom apartment with this guy who moved his girlfriend in for free with the agreement of our landlord. I knew it wouldn't be an ideal situation going in, but the apartment is amazing and is located really well. And I have lived with couples before and never really had any issues, but I never knew exactly how bad it could get. My roommate, who we will call Bill, and his girlfriend, who I will call Molly, said that they have never lived in a flat share before, and to be honest, they are getting a great deal. They're paying the same price as me, but getting to basically treat it like their love hotel. They're also unemployed, so they stay home all day. They scream, they flirt, they role play, and they chase each other around while shrieking. They also yell at their video games, they listen to rock music at full volume, and they take speakerphone calls super loudly for hours. They love to squawk, squeak, and laugh hysterically at the top of their lungs. They'll quack, they roar, they do loud baby talk and shrieks of pleasure. And yes, it is their first relationship, and they've been together for like a whopping 3 months. Also, it's the first time they're away from their parents. So I know what you're thinking. Yeah, I'm the lucky one who gets to deal with the aftermath. Molly also meows, growls, hisses, and sometimes even wails like a baby. Every time I get home, I hear them shrieking, and sometimes it's something that sounds like a role play. They also take showers where they will shriek and squeal and yell. One time, I was in the bathroom with the washing machine and dishwasher running nearby, with the door closed and the shower on full blast, and I could still hear each of their high-pitched meows clear as day, even though I'm slightly hard of hearing. I keep knocking on their door, asking them, hey, would it be possible to scream less loudly? And they would comply temporarily, but I can tell that they're really annoyed. But the last time this happened seemed to be the breaking point. My roommate came out super upset in his boxers and said to me, look, we understand if it was late and you need to get some sleep, but it's the daytime. We can't control how we talk to each other because of you. It's our nature to talk like this when we're together in our relationship. We love each other and we will express it. I said that I didn't care what they did in their private time, as long as I don't hear it. He then said to me, bro, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, not 3 o'clock in the morning. We enjoy watching videos, listening to music, and expressing our love for each other. We will be quieter at night if you have to sleep, but you should understand that we can't change our habits all the time just for you. Now, they do generally get quieter around the lease's quiet hours, which is at 11 o'clock, because they are also sleeping. So it's not the hour that bothers me. It's the fact of hearing them all day and feeling like I'm intruding something when I'm just sitting at home. Well, we didn't come to a compromise, and eventually they went right back to their room and continued their activities about an hour later. In fact, the squealing and meowing is still happening as I'm writing this post. So does this sound like entitled behavior? Or would I be the entitled roommate if I continue to ask them to keep their meowing and noises down outside of quiet hours? What should I do? Okay, honestly, this is incredibly weird. I don't think I've ever seen a relationship where it's like, oh yeah, we meow and squawk like a bird to show our love for each other. Like, holy crap, how are these people paying rent? Seriously, like they don't have a job, they stay home all day, and they're making a nuisance of you and pretty much everybody around you. Like, I feel bad for your neighbors more than anything else. It also begs the question, like, wait a second, you're telling me that you can't at least be slightly reasonable here? So personally, if I was in your shoes, I would probably like record the way they're acting and record like the noise they're making and send it straight to the landlord. I would be like, dude, this is unreasonable. There's no way anyone can allow this. Like, I understand there's gonna be like daytime noises at like any kind of apartment complex, but to be literally screaming all day, all the way until like what, 11 o'clock? That sounds obnoxious and I would hate that. So yeah, your roommates are super entitled. They are really obnoxious as well. And I know for a fact if I was in your shoes, I would hate this setup and I would probably look to try and move out because this is less than ideal circumstances to live in and I would not want to deal with that. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My mom decided to get really political when she was visiting my house, so I decided to get some petty revenge by literally turning her argument against her, as I put her in her place in a way that really made her shut up and not bring up politics around me ever again. Here's how I did it. Okay, so I got my first professional job during the pandemic 90 minutes away from my hometown, close to my family but not close enough for them to visit frequently. And this story takes place during one of my parents' rare visits. I want to make something very clear up front. I love my parents. My mom did a really good job raising my brother and I during a drawn-out, messy divorce, and my stepdad was a stabilizing force I never got with my biological dad. However, their political discussions, which are frequent, can be frustrating to engage with because of how set in their beliefs they are. I love talking politics, but talking with them on politics sometimes feels like talking to a wall. And this is one of those rare instances where the point I wanted them to understand got through. My stepdad was down in the basement looking at some electrical work. Despite being the more politically vocal of the two, he doesn't factor into this story. My mom and I were in the living room and we were talking about protests against racial violence that were happening all across the United States. And my mom said something to the effect of, if they, meaning the protesters, don't like it here, then they can go someplace else. And honestly, that just kind of repeated in my mind. If they don't like it here, they can go someplace else. I felt my chest tighten at hearing those words. I sat in silence, letting her have the last words for the moment because I was stewing on that line, trying to figure out why it bothered me so much. I knew my parents both generally frowned on protests, but I really wasn't expecting this kind of position. Eventually, I figured it out. It felt like she was more interested in the comfort of the status quo than solving people's problems. And this rubbed me the wrong way beyond anything she's ever said before. Dismissing people's concerns as if you're waving your hand is not how I wanted to view or even engage in politics, because in work, I'm very much motivated by improvements and making things better than they were. It's part of why I'm about to get a job in local government management. I didn't say anything for the moment while I sorted out my thoughts, and it was here that my mom stepped in to use my bathroom. Now, here's where the story gets mildly spicy. My bathroom is in the worst condition I've ever seen a bathroom in any context. I had not scrubbed the toilet bowl in a couple of months. The sink was letting out rusty water thanks to my landlord. There was hair all over the floor from my dog. I had meant to clean it up before they arrived, but I lost track of time and I didn't get around to it. Bathrooms in a gas station or a bar didn't compare to how crusty my bathroom was. Well, my mom was in and out as quickly as possible. And seriously, I don't blame her one bit. If I had any other bathroom in the house, I would have sent her to that one. She then looked at me and said, "Your bathroom is disgusting." But you know what? She was right. It was. And to claim otherwise would be a blatant lie. But sensing the opportunity for a glorious clapback, I took my shot with a stoic look on my face. I said to her, "If you don't like it, you can always go someplace else." I couldn't read what she was thinking on her face, but I didn't need to. Our family has a tendency to clam up whenever they're thinking deeply about something. And she wasn't saying a word. She was laser focused on me. She was frowning, but the gears were definitely turning. And I think the bathroom helped her contextualize a couple of problems with the going someplace else argument. For starters, it dismisses the lived experiences of people with the complaints, and it's basically the equivalent of saying, "Oh, I'm sorry you feel that way." I'm sure she felt that way when I reflected her belief right back at her, because we have very similar personalities, and I would have felt the same way as she does if I was in her shoes. And I think that's the entire reason why my response was so effective. Secondly, it doesn't solve either group's problems. My mom would have to find a public restroom, and my bathroom would still be a mess. Like literally nobody comes out ahead. And third, it's complacency that ignores the potential for improvement just because you don't think anything needs improving. She was comfortable with the status quo, and through her argument fell prey to the misconception that better and good are synonymous. The bathroom reflection illustrated how entitled her position with the protesters was. For the record, she's not entitled. It was just an entitled belief. While I'm not sure my mom ever changed her mind on protest or protesters at all, I think it did at least get her to interrogate her political beliefs more closely, which I count as an absolute win. After that legendary Uno reverse card, we unsurprisingly kept the topics apolitical and had a great rest of the visit. As they left, I felt proud of my ability to think on my feet and illustrate my point on the fly like that. And then I immediately went into my bathroom and gave it a proper scrubbing, because regardless, that's still really gross and that needed to get done. Okay, I love what the original poster did because I feel the exact same way. I hate dealing with people who are so set in their beliefs that they can't look at anything critically. So I think the way you turn things around on her, in my opinion, was really effective and really smart. Because in my honest opinion, I think what she said was very mean and just completely unacceptable. Am I the jerk for not wanting to give up my bed for house guests that are coming over for Thanksgiving? Because the idea of somebody sleeping in my bed sounds incredibly gross, even though my fiance basically said, yeah, we're gonna be doing this. Because right now I'm very frustrated and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. So my fiance and I have been together since February, so about 10 months. When we moved in together, I brought my queen bed and we put it in a spare room for guests. Ever since then, we've had a couple of friends and my sister visit, and each time they've stayed in the guest room. My fiance's parents are staying staying one night for the holiday, and he had planned to have us move over and sleep in the guest room and give his parents our room. His logic is simple. His parents are older, they would have easy access to the in-suite, and it's what he's always done for their visits. But the one difference is that whenever they visited in the past, it was his old place with no guest or bed. So he offered them his room, he slept on the couch, and I would be at my place. We recently got a king-size bed, and so the bed that he used to have, the one that his parents have slept on, is in the guest bedroom. And my old bed is not in use, but still in the house for additional guests. When we bought the mattress, he texted his family about it, and then also said, "Oh, you guys will have a comfy bed to sleep on for Thanksgiving." But it didn't occur to me that he meant giving up our bed and sleeping in the guest room. But I learned this morning that that's exactly what he intends on doing. If I'm being completely honest, I feel weird about it. The guest room has the bed they've always slept on for visits. There's a guest bathroom directly next to the guest room, not the in-suite, and we'd have to wash the sheets twice in 24 hours, as well as adjust our stuff to move over there. On a personal note, before it was his room he was giving up, but now it's our room, and I don't love people being in my stuff regardless of snooping. And yes, they are very nice. I'm not worried about them intruding specifically, but it is the principle of the matter. The thing is, he already promised it to them, and we'd be going back on that. I don't know if I'm willing to fight over this, but I am trying to understand his perspective and help him understand mine. We have very different cultural backgrounds, so perhaps that's a barrier for us. I'm honestly at a loss, and right now I seriously don't know what to do. Oh my gosh, I would be losing my mind here because this is so gross. Dude, you literally have two beds these people can sleep in while they're over visiting your place. And yet your fiance still says, "Hey, let's have him sleep in our king-size bed. That'll be fine." Like, dude, no, that's just gross. Why would you allow that? If I was in your shoes, I would be putting my foot down. I would say to him, "I'm sorry, but I sleep there as well. I'm not giving up my room just so your parents can sleep in my bed. They can sleep in the guest room. Like, literally, that's what it's for. Why are we ignoring the obvious accommodations that are right there in the other room? Like, seriously, that's so stupid in my opinion. So no, you're not the jerk for not wanting to give up your bed. What he's asking is completely irrational and unreasonable to the highest degree. And if I was in your shoes, I absolutely would turn him down and say, no, this is not gonna happen. Am I the jerk for not giving my friend my sofa, as she is literally demanding it as she's moving out of my apartment? Because right now I'm really pissed off and very annoyed about how big of a deal she's made this, and at this point I really just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. So at the start of the summer, my friend finished university and had to move out of her accommodation. My friend, we'll call her Amy for the sake of the story, had been asking around other friends and me to stay for a short period of time while she finds her first solo flat. Of course, having my own place and no roommates, I thought it could be great. She would be staying only until she found somewhere to move, and I would get to spend some much needed girl time and everything would work out. Now, I must say that initially everything was going smoothly. She wasn't messy, she helped pay towards her expenses, and she cleaned up after herself. And this is about where the sofa gets involved. My flat has one bathroom, one bedroom, and a living space with an open kitchen. In said living space is my sofa, my pull-out bed, and it was a great find on Facebook Marketplace when I first moved out. And so it's been with me ever since then. It's been great for any sleepovers or guests that I might have around. Amy has never brought up wanting me to donate this sofa. Well, at least that was the case until 2 weeks ago. Amy finally found her new home just in time for Christmas. Early on in her stay, we'd have conversations about her moving out, and I would say that I would help her out as much as I could. I had a bunch of spare cutlery, etc., and I offered her to say that, hey, you can take it to start out, and I would downsize accordingly. So anyways, last week Amy got her keys and began moving her belongings over to her new place. While helping her move, she mentioned how great it would be to have a sofa bed just like mine, and that apparently it would make starting out easier. Now, I totally understand this, as that's why I was so happy about finding mine at the time that I did. And I started telling her to just keep a lookout on Marketplace, and eventually someone will get rid of one. And that's when she came out and said, well, why can't you do that and I could just have yours? And when she said this, I was shocked. And honestly, I just kind of stared at her blankly. At no point did I ever express even thinking of replacing my beloved sofa bed, and with Christmas being less than a month away, I am not in a place to be buying a new sofa right now. She then proceeded with, I mean, it's already secondhand, and you already have a bed, so it's not that bad for you. As if I'm okay suddenly with just having all my friends and family chilling in my bedroom when I have a living space with no sofa there. Naturally, I told her that my sofa isn't for sale, and I would not be gifting it to her. And as I just said to her, look, I'm sure you'll find one on Marketplace or somewhere, but guess what? She didn't take that lightly. She finished packing and moving her things with as minimal communication as possible. And as soon as she left, she blocked me and complained about my greediness and lack of empathy to her friends. I've also received a couple of messages from those friends who are literally ripping into me, so it seems like everybody's on her side. As of yesterday, I found out her parents are helping her pay for a bunch of starter furniture as a housewarming and Christmas gift, which sure, that is lovely, but I'm still confused why she thought I would give my sofa up for her. So seriously, am I the jerk for turning down my friend? Because right now I'm really pissed off. Dude, your friend is so selfish. Holy crap. She literally said to you, oh, you can find a new sofa. I'm not going to put that kind of work in. It's already secondhand. Just give it to me. Let me have it so I can have it in my place. And it's like, bro, what are you talking about? I let you stay here out of the goodness of my own heart. And now you're trying to be like, I'm taking the sofa. You can't stop me. Like, I don't know about you, but that is some serious main character energy. Like, dude, what are you talking about? You can't take my property. So good for you for putting your foot down and saying, no, you're definitely not doing that. Because if I was in your shoes, I would have done the exact same thing. Am I the jerk for leaving my volunteer group after realizing that everyone expected me to plan every single event? Because right now they're making me feel really guilty and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I joined a local community group because I wanted to help with weekend service projects. At first, everything was fun and cooperative, but after I planned one event that went smoothly, everyone decided planning was my new permanent role. Anytime an event came up, they all waited for me to handle the scheduling, the supply list, and the communication with the venue itself. When I asked other members to help out, they said that I was better at organizing and that we all have our strengths. But the truth is, they didn't want the responsibility. Last month, I spent hours preparing for a fundraiser while everyone else showed up and took photos. Not one person offered to help me set up or clean afterwards. I told the group that I needed a break, and they acted shocked. One member even said that I put the entire community at risk of missing opportunities. I felt guilty, but also taken for granted. So you know what? I left. But with that in mind, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now I don't know what to do. No, you're not the jerk. This literally is not your problem. These people threw this on your back and said, oh, someone else can do it, finally. Not because you're better than them, but because you're willing to do it. Like in my opinion, them saying, oh, you're just so much better at organizing. Like that's a complete cop-out. They're just incredibly lazy. And sure, maybe you are good at organizing, but I'm pretty sure this is something that anybody could do. And I really think they're just being lazy and just being like, okay, we can kick the can down the road and this person can deal with it. So honestly, I don't think you're the jerk for leaving. I probably would have left as well, especially if I felt like I was being taken advantage of. Like that is not okay and you definitely don't deserve that. An entitled jerk uses a treadmill right next to me at the gym and plays his music on full blast on speakerphone. So I decided to get some revenge by literally giving the worst karaoke impression you could possibly imagine, scaring this guy off and showing him just how entitled he was truly acting. Here's what happened. Okay, so this just happened this morning and I figured that someone online would appreciate this pettiness. I go to the gym at around 4 o'clock in the morning because it's basically a ghost town and all the equipment is free. 5 minutes into my 30-minute run, it's just me and a sea of empty treadmills. Well, that is until this guy, let's call him Kevin, comes in and chooses the one right next to me. I think to myself, okay, that's annoying, but whatever. I'm already in my groove, so I try not to let it bother me. But then he takes out his phone, sets it on the treadmill, and starts blasting music on full volume with no headphones on at 4 in the morning in a silent gym. I don't want to like immediately snap at him, so I say a little loud, God, I love headphones. But Kevin then glances at me, says nothing, and just keeps walking. So I try again. Hey, can you please use headphones? And this man actually has the audacity to say to me, mind your own business. So I just think to myself, all right, my run is ruined, so I decide that his walk is about to be ruined too. He's playing some 80s rock song, so I get some revenge by starting to belt out K-pop Demon Hunter songs. Here's the thing about me. I cannot sing like at all, and I'm out of breath. But regardless, I commit, because ruining this guy's run is more important than breathing. After about 2 minutes of my awful serenade, Kevin gives up, grabs his stuff, and moves to the opposite end of the treadmills. And honestly, I've never felt more vindicated on behalf of everyone who believes in basic gym etiquette, because this guy absolutely had this coming. Holy crap, imagine going to a gym at 4 in the morning, standing next to the only person there, and then blasting music, and then saying, oh, just mind your own business. Like, dude, I got here first, I've been here for a while, and you're gonna come up to me and act like me being here is a problem? What are we talking about? This is crazy. So yeah, I love the way you got some revenge on this guy, because his attitude was completely out of pocket, and you did not deserve that. An entitled Karen discovers that my reservation didn't apply to her, as she scowled at us for taking a spot that she clearly felt she deserved more simply because she had a bunch of kids with her. And trust me, this was incredibly annoying to deal with the entire night. Here's what happened. Okay, so I recently hosted a small family gathering at a brewery and specifically reserved the limited low-top tables so that my 90-year-old aunt could sit comfortably. Upon arrival, I noticed our reserved table and started setting up, while my husband checked in at the bar and opened up a tab for our party. A large group was camped out at a nearby high top and standing area. Some of them were even hovering over my table, with several infants and one of them crawling around on the floor, also with their strollers and a large wagon basically touching the chairs of my table. One woman actually was glaring at me and said loudly enough for me to hear, "Oh, I wanted that table." And another guest heard her say, "They didn't even ask," which made no sense because I made the reservation and I coordinated details with the staff. She even continued to fume at us the whole time for even daring to use the space I reserved just because she showed up with an army of infants in a bar without a reservation, where clearly she deserved it more than I did, which left me incredibly baffled because this is seriously not my problem. Okay, seriously, this is one of those situations where it's like, yeah, just because you have kids doesn't mean that somehow the world has to move around you, lady. If this lady really did want to have like some kind of reserved spot for her and her family, then she should have reserved it like the original poster did. Why are you going to give other people a hard time when they literally did what they needed to do? The original poster is not at fault for reserving the spot. Like, what's happening right now? Why go out of your way for making them feel guilty for, like, I don't know, setting things up ahead of time and planning properly? And of all people, you know for a fact that this mom absolutely should have taken the time to be like, okay, let's reserve a seat. Especially if you have all these kids running around and all these strollers. Like, dude, if you're gonna have that kind of family, then congratulations, you need to take the steps necessary to make sure that people can accommodate you when you go to like a public restaurant. So yeah, that lady was super entitled. I can't stand people who act like that just because they have kids. And in my opinion, if she really wanted those tables, then she should have called ahead of time just like the original poster did. An entitled jerk gets arrested on a tour boat after he endangered the boat, the crew, and the passengers by trying to mess with the controls in really bad weather. But as a result, this guy got locked in a storage closet as the boat was brought back to shore, with 2 Coast Guards waiting for this entitled jerk. And I seriously hope that this guy got in trouble for ruining our trip. Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm currently in Hawaii. I booked a boat tour and things were going well. The boat stopped for a little bit for people to swim, and the entitled jerk of this story starts talking to the woman who's captain of the ship about how he was in the Navy way back in the day, telling her stories that she obviously didn't care to hear. You could tell she was annoyed, but she tried to be a polite tour guide while also trying to do her job and watch over the swimmers. Eventually, the waves got a little bit higher, so we were told to get on the boat. As we were trying to leave, the anchor was stuck on a rock, so the captain and crew had to do a lot of maneuvering to get the anchor out. There was a crewman in the water trying to see the anchor, and the rest of the crew frantically running around doing different things. It started to seem like a dangerous situation, so the rest of the tourists just sat down, kept quiet, and got out of the way. The weather quickly started to turn for the worse as the wind started to pick up. Well, this entitled jerk kept interfering with the crew. He was yelling orders, he was confusing the crew, trying to copy hand signals, and eventually the captain ordered him to sit down. Well, as he sat down, he was muttering how he would have done things differently, and this is in some typical jerk fashion, looking for someone to reassure his comments. The crew was still dealing with the anchor, and the guy in the water is fighting the waves and trying to direct the boat. Other crew members are relaying orders while keeping an eye on the guy in the water. The captain couldn't see the guy in the water from the control area and was trying to do a lot of small movements to try and get the anchor out while also trying to not run over the diver. Well, this entitled jerk then got up and did something that I honestly never expected him to do. He started messing with the controls, and right when he did that, the captain rightfully chewed him out, and the way she did this was pretty epic. She chewed him out and told him to sit down right now. And once they got the anchor unstuck, another crewmate continued to carry on with chewing this guy out, and had to confine this guy to a storage closet area of the boat. The captain then told everybody to find a seat, telling us to not get up, and then said that we were returning to shore. When we got back to the dock, we arrived there with 2 Coast Guard people waiting for this jerk. I'm not totally sure what happened, but I hope he got some kind of fine at the very least. This entitled jerk endangered the boat, the crew, and ruined 50 people's trip, all because he wanted to pretend that he was important again. And I really hope that he gets in trouble in the way that he deserves. Wow, what was this guy thinking? Like, what he was doing was so unsafe. He doesn't know that boat at all. He probably hasn't even run a boat in how many years? Like what, 30 years or something like that? Like this old entitled jerk just steps up and says, I'm gonna help out. Like, dude, what are you doing? You're gonna get everybody killed. Like, there's already a guy in the water trying to get the anchor out, and this guy walks up and starts messing with the controls of the boat. Like, he could have taken that guy out and then taken everybody out in the process. So truly, I'm right there with the original poster. I hope they get exactly what they deserve, and that the Coast Guard were not just there for intimidation, because what that guy did is so bad, and I really think that you and the rest of the crew got incredibly lucky. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for being mad at my fiance after he secretly spent our small travel fund? Because right now I am very angry, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so a few months ago, my fiance and I decided to start a small travel fund. I told my fiance that when I was in my 20s, I used to save up money for trips, and that I never used my travel fund for anything else, such as being tempted to grab some cash from it when I really needed it. It helped me save plenty without burning a hole in my pocket once I was on the road, and he liked the idea. I made it explicitly clear that this was super important to me because we don't have super high earnings, and anything we can save for the fund would be lovely, since we were planning to travel to Italy this year. For 3 to 4 months, we both contributed to the fund, and we saved up enough to cover accommodation expenses, which made me really excited. Well, a few days ago, I was cleaning up, and something made me look into our fund. Now, the fund is in an envelope, which I know that's a bad idea, and I opened it just to remind myself of how much we saved, only to find that the entire fund was empty. The money was completely gone. When my fiance came back from the store, I asked him where the money was, and he said he spent half of it on a gift he recently bought me, which for reference was a hardcover comic book that I knew was pricey and was very happy and grateful to receive it at the time, and my fiance wouldn't say what the other half was for. And when he told me this, I was livid, not because he spent the money, although that really does still upset me, but because he spent it without telling me. His excuse is that he didn't take me seriously when I said this was important to me. My fiance said he would put the money back and that he was sorry and that he didn't think it was going to be such a big deal. I told him that I didn't trust him anymore, and to the fact that he used money that I contributed to the fund to either buy my own gift or to spend it on God knows what was a severe violation of trust from my point of view. My fiance said I was being a jerk about it, and we are still very upset with each other. So seriously, am I the jerk in this scenario? Because I really at this point don't know what to do. Your fiance is so far out of line in my opinion, it's not even funny. For starters, no, of course you're not the jerk. This guy literally bought you a gift with your own money. Like, how does he not realize that's exactly what he did? And you know what? He absolutely should put money back in that fund. It really should go in like a bank account or at least somewhere safe where he can't get his grubby fingers all over it, because clearly he can't be trusted with that money ever again. Like, I'm right there with the original poster. I would feel like my trust was completely shattered by that one act of like dishonesty, and I just would never trust him with that vacation fund ever again, because you put probably a lot of time and money into that, not to mention the fact that you guys don't make that much money as it is. So for him to just spend it all of a sudden without telling you first, that in my opinion is completely uncalled for, and in my opinion you definitely do not deserve that in the slightest. My cousin has become an entitled, spoiled brat, and it's honestly become super upsetting, and I'm now in the process of cutting all contact with them because they have become completely insufferable, and I absolutely do not want to have a relationship with her. Here's what happened. Okay, I want to start off by saying that my cousin used to be a kind, creative, and caring person. We used to be close. We would play Roblox for hours and go to the park as kids, but now she has completely changed. I see my aunt sometimes and do chores for her, and honestly, my cousin is a complete slob. She leaves trash and dirty dishes everywhere. She leaves food in the sink and half-empty soda cans on the counter. She is almost a legal adult and doesn't do her own laundry. I mean, she doesn't even put her own dishes in the dishwasher. If she uses up the last of something, she just leaves empty packages on the counters and leaves it for others to clean up. I was visiting my aunt today, and my cousin left an empty container of milk on the counter, and her mom put put it on the coffee table for her to clean, and she just threw it on the table. She leaves garbage and hair all over the place, and she's also incredibly rude to anyone who isn't her boyfriend or her friend. She is completely disrespectful to her mom and treats her mom like a slave, while also treating her like a free Uber service and expects her to do whatever she wants at the moment she wants it. She treats our grandma like an ATM, and she doesn't even call her, let alone visit her. Yet she still expects our grandma to pay for her phone bill, her Spotify, and so much more. She recently got a free trip to Europe, completely paid for by her mom and my grandmother. Her mom got mad when another family member didn't help pay. Meanwhile, this person hasn't even spoken to her in years. She is completely enabled and spoiled rotten. At least to my knowledge, she faces no consequences for anything. The most that might happen is that she will get told off once in a while, yet still nothing changes. She is completely rude to me and mocks my sensory issues, and when I'm over doing chores or visiting my aunt, I often hear her on the phone talking crap about other people. The most annoying thing is that she's getting paid $10 a week for acting like this. I admit that I am paid by my grandmother when I do chores for her, and my mom and my aunt buy me gifts sometimes because I do almost every chore for them, but I don't care what I get. I care that she gets paid and gets whatever she wants for doing nothing. Her mom always says that I need a relationship with her, but I always say absolutely not. I don't want a relationship with a disrespectful slob who is spoiled and entitled. I don't want a relationship with someone who is selfish and uses others. I don't want a relationship with someone who has no self-discipline. I don't consider her family, and I'm already in the process of cutting off all contact. Yeah, I completely understand where the original poster is coming from, because I can't stand people who act this way. Like, what the original poster is describing is someone who literally lives at home rent-free and doesn't do anything to contribute to anything in the house. Like, they're messy, they're a slob, they treat everybody like garbage, and they're always using people for free stuff, like money or a ride or, I don't know, labor. Like, your cousin literally doesn't do any chores. And it baffles me that your aunt isn't like stepping up and being like, okay, if you want to live here, you got to step up and do something. So honestly, it really is disappointing to have a cousin like that, but at least you know exactly the kind of people you want to be associated with. Because from the sounds of it, your cousin is super entitled, and I don't blame you for choosing to keep your distance. My parents are guilt-tripping me into staying in their house and continuing to live with them, saying that I'm not ready to move in with my boyfriend and that I would be useless since I'm not financially independent yet. And at this point, I'm so confused and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so currently I'm a 23-year-old female and I just newly graduated. I've been living with roommates the past few years, and it's been hard for my mental health moving back in with my family. They constantly want to know what I'm doing, where I am, and try to track my location, and will get upset if I go out too much. For context, I just finished school 2 weeks ago and have been hanging out with my friends and my boyfriend on the weekends only. I feel like I also walk on eggshells in the house as my mom has anger problems, and every few weeks, her and my dad will have a screaming match or start throwing things at each other. And whenever that isn't happening, they make snide remarks and insults at each other. So it's just a matter of time for the next fight to happen. I have about $6,000 in savings, and my boyfriend offered to let me move in with him if I would pay $1,250 a month in rent. I'll be studying for my licensing exam for the next 3 months, while also working full-time to ensure my savings don't deplete too fast. But here's the thing, my parents are very against this, as they think moving in prior to marriage is wrong, and they say that I can't take care of myself, and that I'm not good at housework, so he won't want me because I'm useless, and I should be financially independent as a woman first. My parents hate that I'd be giving money to his family, as his mom owns the condo that he rents, and they're guilt-tripping me into staying, saying things like they're living off of their savings and that they're broke, and that family comes first, and I shouldn't give away my hard-earned money to some other people to help pay off their mortgage. My dad doesn't have a good earning job, and my mom is a stay-at-home job who takes care of the house. They didn't put a single cent towards my education, other than my dad paying gas to drive me home sometimes during school breaks, and helping me move out of my university home. But they're saying because I'm family and they spent a lot of money raising me, I need to get a job soon and put that money towards the family to help. They will be charging me market rent or just below once I get a nursing job. So right now, I just need to hear some unbiased opinions on if it's okay for me to move out. I know my parents are toxic, but it's also hard to differentiate what's right and wrong because this is just how I was raised. What should I I do? Okay, I want to say first and foremost that moving out would not be a bad idea. There is nothing wrong with you moving in with your boyfriend, and I think you really should ignore your parents if this is something you really want to do. It seems like they're grasping at straws right now. They're trying to find any excuse to keep you in the house, most likely because they gain some kind of benefit by you being in the house, whether that's free labor or like money you're making from your job or something like that. And to top it all off, they sound really manipulative, not to mention the anger issues that they very clearly have. And just to help you out, parents who throw things and get angry at the drop of a hat are not normal parents. That is not a normal upbringing or a normal household, and I'm so sorry you have to deal with that. You really do deserve to have peace in your life and to have some semblance of like happiness to look towards. And in my opinion, an actually loving family who was supportive would encourage you to try and succeed, but it really seems like your parents are trying to keep you in their house just to make you miserable. Like if I was in your shoes, I would move in with my partner like right away. There's no way I would hesitate on that, especially based on the way you describe the way your parents are acting, because their behavior is absolutely atrocious. And if I was in your shoes, I would move out sooner than later. My dad expects me to text him, call him, and update him almost every single day. And at the age of 25, I feel like I'm going crazy, because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my parents divorced when I was 2 years old, and my dad has always done his best to be in my life. My older brother and I used to love spending the day with him every Saturday. At some point when I was around 12 years old, my older brother stopped coming. My mom and dad had some bad custody and child support fights early on, and my older brother sided with my mom. I tried to stay neutral just to avoid hurting anybody. From there until college, I would visit my dad alone. He wasn't too pushy about texting or calling, but would always cross into overprotective. He would text me almost daily to check in, and on the few instances I forgot to answer, if I was maybe out with friends or fell asleep or if I was sick, he would text my mom and demand to know that I was okay. A few times my mom was asleep as well and didn't answer, so he called the police to my mom's house in the middle of the night. Our relationship started to get really bad right before college, and we were fighting all the time, but he would always attribute this to me being a hormonal teenager. And I think it was because I was struggling for more independence. My first year of college, he lost his high-paying job and all of his income. He had to move in with his mom to a different state where they still live together. She is immunocompromised, and he takes care of her, so they both have essentially not left the house since COVID. He is set on looking for virtual work and has been doing nothing but studying daily, sleeping weird hours, and applying for jobs for the last 5 years. And I'm honestly not even exaggerating, they don't do much else. I haven't seen either of them in 5 years, and he says he isn't ready for me to visit yet because he is ashamed of the situation. Our current schedule is as follows. We speak about 2 times a week on a set day and at a set time for 1 hour each. Both of these calls end up going way over an hour, and he guilt trips me when I try to wrap up, even though I have things to do around the house, as well as fitness classes, dinner to make, as well as many other things. During this call, I am not allowed to walk or clean or cook or be outside or literally do anything else besides sit and just listen to him. In fact, if he hears any noise in the background, he gets angry. When I try to push back on this, he says that I probably waste time on 100 other things and can set aside 2 hours or more a week just to speak to him. Now, we don't have much to talk about, as I don't like to tell him about my life. He likes to debate or turn everything I mention to him into a negative or some kind of like life lesson. I have been in an amazing relationship for almost a year that I simply haven't had the energy to tell him about because I know he's going to find a million things wrong with it. He's gonna complain that he's a different religion, which is apparently the worst thing in the world, even though I'm not religious and neither is my boyfriend or my dad. We talk about my job occasionally, but I am not interested in climbing the corporate ladder or learning the games that he wants me to play. He doesn't have anything happening in his life either, since all he does is study for open roles that he finds. He usually spends our phone call just talking about the mistakes he's made in life and about how I should avoid them, as well as current events and politics and things going on in the job market. I'm not really interested in these things that he talks about, and I don't want to follow in his footsteps. So I mostly just stare at the wall and listen for an hour and a half, and I just try to sound interested. In addition to these calls, he always wants me to text him within 15 minutes of arriving at work, and this is just like the phone calls 2 days a week. He wants me to text him when I am home from work before 6 p.m., and if I'm running late, I have to call him and let him know. For reference, my commute is a safe and easy 20-minute ride. I also have to answer his daily nighttime check-in text messages where he's asking me me how things are going, if I have any questions, and if I'm home. And I have to do this within 30 minutes. Now, I am not on my phone often and have missed responding on time to a few of them, which led to some really bad fights. We eventually settled on me texting him myself every night once I was home and not planning to leave. Lastly, he wants me to let him know if I go out on the weekends and text him when I'm home, which I think is fair. One important thing to note is that when I first moved into my own place a couple of years ago to be near my work, he had very strict rules about where I had to live. Namely, places with a doorman with buildings with cameras or in some safe part of the city, which is all really reasonable, but it is very expensive. I was doing well for myself, but I couldn't afford those amenity buildings on my own. It would be similar to New York City, where you can find affordable apartments in okay areas on a decent entry-level salary, but not the amenity buildings in a very nice area. My dad agreed to cover the rest and did so for about a year and a half. But a few months ago, right after I re-signed for another year, he told me that he ran out of money. I've been putting all the extra on my credit card, which he promises to pay back once he gets a job. I don't know when that will be, and of course, I will not be resigning unless things turn around, but I am kind of stuck in this situation. I wish I could say that this is the only reason I want to keep the relationship with him, but money is not worth a bad mental state. I can't say that it doesn't make me anxious, but I could end our relationship and walk away with a few thousand in debt. The truth is that I feel bad for him, and he makes me feel guilty if I don't put him first. My parents are European, and he says it's a very American mentality to not put your family first, that I should want to call him often, and I should feel bad if I know he's worrying about me, that if I can text him to let him know that I'm okay, then that is exactly what I should be doing. I've tried to ask that we cut back on communication and how much he relies on my responses, but he just calls me selfish. For reference, I have an excellent relationship with my mom and her side of the family. I call her to chat almost daily, and we talk about all the things in her life and in mine. She knows and has met my boyfriend, and she has my location, so she always knows when I'm safe. She doesn't force anything on me and doesn't turn everything negative or into a life lesson, so I love telling her about my life and keeping her updated. When I try to explain this to my dad, he basically insinuates that if my mom isn't checking in on me regularly, then she just doesn't care. Even as I'm typing this, I can see that this is not healthy. He says he is much better than most dads, but I mean, is that true? I just don't know what to do. I don't want to cut him off or end the relationship because he doesn't have anything else. No other close friends or family besides his mom. I love him a lot, and the financial tie doesn't help. It's easy to suggest setting a hard boundary, but he always follows up by saying, "Oh, so you're okay with knowing that I'm stressing out and there's something you can do to fix it, but you won't?" I mean, do I just say yes in that instance? I feel like I can't do this forever. I hate being attached to my phone and constantly anxious, and I feel like I'm reaching my breaking point. What should I do? Okay, honestly, it really seems like your dad is super controlling. I know you love him and you really do care about him and he has nobody else, but seriously, when is enough enough? For reference, the original poster is 25. Like, they are very well into adulthood, and in my opinion, what you're going through sounds super stressful and just super inappropriate. I mean, the nightly check-ins, the guilt tripping if you don't call him, as well as him calling the police at one point, all because he couldn't get in contact with you, like, that's insane. That is not normal behavior, and honestly, I just don't think that's something you should put up with. Because in my opinion, if I was in your shoes, I would be standing up for myself, and I really would be trying to put some kind of boundary up, because what you're describing is not okay, and in my opinion, you do not deserve that in the slightest. My entitled dad would never let me go on a field trip without causing a scene just to try and get back at my teachers, as he was convinced that all field trips were just a scheme for the teachers to make money, and I'm honestly just so embarrassed to deal with my dad, and now that he's in prison, I seriously hope I never have to deal with him ever again. Here's what happened. Okay, for a bit of background, my father was a single parent, but an extreme narcissist. He was awful to me all the time. He's actually been incarcerated in prison for 8 years, and that's counting the awful treatment he inflicted on my brother and me. So, needless to say, I come from a broken and confusing family. My mother and father divorced when I was a few months old, and my brother was 2 years old. My mother was an extreme addict, and my father is a serial narcissist. They are quite the volatile pair, so I personally think that things may have been worse had they not divorced. In a surprising turn of events, the courts actually granted my grandparents custody of my brother and me, and I'm not sure exactly the details leading to that decision, but something tells me that it had to do with my mother being an addict and my father leaving my brother and I locked in the car during the court hearing. Our grandparents cared for us for 8 years, but ultimately gave my brother and I back to our father because he was constantly saying that he was going to get violent, and they simply couldn't take it anymore. It doesn't make sense to me. I mean, I don't know why or if they had authorities involved, but it is what it is, and all is said and done. Unfortunately, I can't ask them about it as they have passed away. After our father got us back, it was almost like it was his mission to make our lives miserable. The worst part about it is that doing this brought him pleasure. The more sadistic and cruel he was, the happier he'd be. He only interacted with us when he had to, and when he did, it was either for his own gain or to belittle or just treat us like garbage. He was a very sick man, and I'm grateful I was able to escape him when I was 16 years old. I have a restraining order against him, and word has it that when he was served the order, he was surprised, even though the reason he is in jail is because of the way he treated me. He was actually put up for parole evaluation in February, but that was thankfully denied. During his speech, he said, "I've hurt some people," but never specified or even mentioned my brother and me. He's disillusioned, disconnected, egotistical, and unremorseful. Now, with that bit of background out of the way, let me talk about a situation that happened when I was a kid. My father hated contributing to my school or anything that involved me doing something he had to pay for or something that he couldn't supervise, and this definitely included field trips. I wish I could say there was only one time this happened, but this was reoccurring every time that I brought home a permission slip. I would put it on the counter hours before he got home so that I was as far away from him as possible when he read it. It didn't matter if it was for the zoo, a movie, amusement park, or anything. His first and only reaction was anger, just pure anger. I think it stemmed from his contempt of giving my school any kind of money. I went to public school, so it wasn't like he was paying any tuition or boarding fees, and it's also not like we didn't have any money. My dad was always buying expensive car parts, items for his growing room, and other expensive items that were only for him. Yet if I needed $15 for a field trip or $20 for lunch money for the month, based off his reactions, you would think that I'm asking him to buy me a concert ticket every single week. When he would read these permission slips, he would start off on a tirade about how incompetent my teachers were and how pathetic they were for asking him for money, even though it was all directly going towards buying me tickets for an event or any other expenses for the event. It seemed like he thought the teachers were lining their pockets with his money, and I was the one that he would take it out on. Each time I gave him a slip, he would yell for about 15 minutes, and he would make sure that I heard it. This led to me feeling a lot of anger and shame about just wanting to have fun with my classmates, because he would make me feel like I was the problem, like I was too expensive and an inconvenience. It was a stark contrast to how my grandma would make me feel. She would actually volunteer for field trips and the school store just so she could be close to me while I was at school. To have that sudden contempt thrown at me by someone who's supposed to care for me after years of being validated by someone I loved and who loved me back, it was one of the many reasons I began to suffer from depression at 11 years old. Now, my father's next step was always the same. He would take a pen and write horrible things to my teacher on top of the permission slip. He would write about how incompetent and greedy they were, how they were lowlifes and idiots, how they just wanted his money even though my education was free. He would write on these permission slips top to bottom with a bunch of hate and insults all over them. But here's the thing, he'd still sign it though and provide the money so I could go, and he would still make me turn in the slip. He would make me hand the teachers these papers full of filth and hate, and obviously they knew it wasn't me who wrote it, but the shame and embarrassment that came from giving them those papers, it might have been easier on my conscience if I just never went on the field trips. These things were never reported to, by the way, and I will never understand why. My father also always followed up to make sure I gave the teachers these slips and would ask me what their reactions were, and I would just say that I gave it to them but they didn't say anything, which really was the truth. Fast forward, and when I was in the 8th grade, I was really becoming aware about the shame and embarrassment that my father's rants and egos would cause me. I remember that there was another field trip and I wanted to go, but there was no way I was going to give my father this slip for him to deface. So I found a check with his signature on it and I just forged his signature. It wasn't great, it was sloppy and gritty, and you could tell that it was definitely forged. I thought I'd try my luck anyways, and I paid for the trip out of my own pocket. Well, I got caught immediately, and my teacher held a conference with me and the principal, but not my father. Now, in the moment, I believe that I just didn't do a good enough job, which may have been true, but now that I'm older, I realize that they knew I forged it because the paper wasn't covered in insults. They gave me another slip and gave me one more chance to have it signed properly. Now, I don't recall how the rest of that story went, or if I even went on the trip. I just remember the fear boiling in my belly, knowing that I had to talk to my father about forging his signature. Long story short, my father is a grade A piece of garbage. You should never jeopardize your child's mental well-being or integrity, all because you don't want to pay for a field trip. Just don't sign the thing and figure something else out. My dad viewed me as a pawn to get his awful and misguided points across, to try and establish dominance in a situation that had nothing to do with him. I have so many other experiences about him, and I really hope that this story resonated with someone. Wow, your dad really is a jerk. Like, that really is unfair for him to treat you like that, but also for him to like go out of his way just to embarrass you. Like, why can't he just sign the slip and move along? Or like go to the principal themselves and be like, hey, I don't like the fact that I have to pay all this money for a field trip. Like, that's the way you want to complain. You don't do that through your kid. Like, that seems so counterintuitive and just really ridiculous. So truly, I'm so sorry you had to deal with that. I'm sorry you had a dad who treated you like garbage, and hopefully you never have to deal with him ever again. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for telling my rich classmate that not everyone has it financially as good as her? Because I'm honestly so tired of hearing about her rich person problems that it's starting to cause a divide in my friend group. And at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 30-year-old female and I'm in my second year of university. And the classmate I called out is 19 years old. And for the sake of the story, we'll call her Ellen. That's not her real name. Now, I wouldn't call us friends, but we work together a lot because of a big assignment. And I often spent lunch with her and the same group of students. So we were kind of like colleagues. Ellen's parents own their own supermarket and are quite well off. And by well off, I mean like they have a yacht, 2 vacation homes, and like 4 cars. Now, I know this fact because Ellen has a habit of bringing up her financial status on a regular basis. At the beginning of the year, it didn't annoy me because it was just casually mentioned now and then, and she wasn't hurting anyone with it. But as time went on, this changed to her actively trying to turn the conversation towards the topic, often during times where it would be considered tone deaf. For example, another classmate that we will call Elise, that's not her real name, got into a car accident and had to stay in the hospital. As she was sharing her experience during lunch, Ellen said to us, "Oh, I got into a really bad accident too once on my yacht. I lost my balance and fell backwards. My neck was sore for days." But the situation where I called her out was this one. Ellen's best friend, who we will call Lydia, had her backpack and laptop stolen and was crying uncontrollably. Ellen gave her a hug and actually said, "You don't need to cry, you could just buy a new one." Lydia said that she couldn't do that, to which Ellen replied, "Oh, come on, it's not that expensive. With the software we need, a laptop of $1,200 should be enough." Well, I replied by saying, "Ellen, not everyone is as financially comfortable as you." Well, when I said that, Ellen clearly didn't like that. She raised her voice and told me that people only see the money, but they don't see how much effort she has put in to get it. That she works at her parents' supermarket every Sunday, and that she deserves every coin that she owns. I told her that I didn't mean that she doesn't deserve it, and that it is a good thing that she doesn't have to worry about money, but that she should consider that most of our fellow students have a different situation. Now, it didn't get mentioned anymore, but the overall mood has been quite cold since then, and I'm wondering if maybe I went too far. Both my boyfriend and best friend, both in their 30s, said that I should have ignored this, because they say 19 years old is basically still a kid, and that it's not my job to teach her empathy. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? Because at this point, I really don't know what to do. Your boyfriend and your friend, in my opinion, are completely wrong. Being 19 years old does not mean that you're still a kid, and you absolutely can learn empathy long before that age. Like, your friend Ellen is a complete spoiled brat, and in my opinion, she absolutely got handouts from her parents. Like, I don't know many supermarket jobs where they work like, what, minimum wage, if not just a little bit higher, and they're somehow magically able to afford a laptop that costs well over $1,000. Like, I don't know about you, but that kind of expendable income at the drop of a hat isn't always easy to come by, especially as a college student. Like, I don't know about you, but I was broke as a college student. I had no money and I couldn't just spend that kind of money on a new laptop. So for Ellen to be like, "Oh, that's okay, just buy a new one," it's like, wow, you are very immature and you seriously cannot read the room. And no, it's not because they're 19 years old. And if anything, it's just indicative of the fact that they definitely are so out of touch. Like, Ellen has no idea how the real world works because mommy and daddy are definitely not struggling. So she has no clue what it's like to struggle financially. She has no idea what it's like to go without food or to go without money or even like basic necessities of life. So when someone like this chimes in and says, "Oh yeah, I hurt my neck on my yacht. I know exactly how your car accident feels." Like, at that point, you almost want to scream out, "Oh my my god, shut up, Ellen. We don't want to hear about your rich person injury. So no, you are definitely not the jerk. Your classmate's being incredibly stupid when she says stuff like that, and in my opinion, I don't blame you for calling her out in the slightest. Am I the jerk for turning away my new neighbor and her child after they once again showed up to my house unannounced? Because right now I'm being called rude, and at this point I'm seriously not sure what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 26-year-old female and I just moved into a new small apartment block 2 weeks ago. And since we moved in, we've been busy setting up furniture and just setting up the place in general. The afternoon that I moved in, one of my neighbors came up to the steps. And for reference, each apartment has a little front area and mine faces the car park. She introduced herself as a single mom with a 4-year-old daughter and gave me a succulent to say welcome. I was very appreciative, I said thank you, and then we spoke for a few minutes. I work 3 days from home and am usually home in the evening after work and at night. Well, this neighbor has started showing up a lot. I can generally hear her approaching with her daughter, and they'll show up with a painting or something the daughter has made to give me. It is nice, but I do prefer to keep to myself, and often I'm kind of in my pajamas, so I'm not really dressed for any kind of visitors. So I have to kind of make myself presentable in under a minute with no notice. This last instance, they showed up at 7 o'clock p.m. The daughter had made some kind of drawing and wanted to drop it off. Now, I had had a long day. I was sitting in a giant sweater on my couch eating ice cream, and I was just trying to watch a film. And when I saw them through the window, I had to quickly jump up, put on shorts, and greet them at the door. I said thank you as always, and the daughter wanted to come in and see what I was watching. It was nothing terrible, but just maybe a little bit too grown up for a 4-year-old. I politely said, look, thank you, but I'm not really in the mood tonight. Could you please leave? My neighbor responded by saying, but she's just a kid. It'll only be a few minutes. She loves making things to show you. I said to her, look, I'm child-free by choice. Can you please leave? Thank you and have a good night. Well, ever since then, they have not been back, but they did leave a note in my mailbox explaining that I was rude and her daughter was upset. She apparently cried and they would be open to an apology. Now, I haven't responded, but I don't want to apologize. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation for turning them away? Because right now, I'm really not sure what to do. Wow, the way that mom is acting is really obnoxious. Like, she knows you work from home and you probably work a lot to some degree. So for her to be like, oh, come on, just let my kid in and roam around your house. It's like, sure, this is cool, but like, you can't just stop by unannounced. That's my opinion at least. And it sounds like the original poster had the same idea. Apparently, they said they're going to speak to the neighbor in person in the morning and say that they're sorry for their choice of words, but they want to have a boundary in place that they can't just show up unannounced. They have plans to not be combative in any kind of way, and they just want to have this conversation person to person. And in my opinion, I think that's a really good idea. So hopefully when you have this conversation, you can set up some kind of boundary, because in my opinion, the way that she was acting by just showing up all the time out of nowhere was completely disrespectful and honestly a little bit obnoxious. Am I the jerk for not sharing my food with my girlfriend after I asked her multiple times if she wanted to order anything when I order my food? Because right now she's calling me selfish for not sharing, despite the fact that I haven't had anything to eat for over 30 hours because I needed to get ready for a minor examination at a hospital. Here's what happened. Okay, so this week I had a minor examination at the hospital that required me to not eat for 24 hours prior to the test. My appointment was also delayed by 4 hours, so by the time it was done and by the time I got home, it was over 32 to 34 hours since I had eaten anything. Now, because of this, I was very hungry and tired, so I decided to order some food. I asked my girlfriend if she wanted anything, but she said no. My girlfriend said that she would rather cook than order out, but I said I'd prefer a takeaway so we can just have separate meals. She said that she would have rathered we both just cooked, but I again refused and told her I'm ordering myself some food. So I ordered the food and she decided not to cook and just said that she didn't want anything. Once my food came, I was sat eating and she came over and asked if she could have some. I then asked her if she was serious. I pointed out that I had asked her multiple times if she wanted anything and that she's waiting for me to sit and enjoy my food just to try and take it. I mentioned that I ordered exactly what I want just because of how hungry I am, but she just said she was hungry too since she hadn't eaten. I mentioned that the only reason she hadn't eaten was because I didn't want to cook for her, but that doesn't mean that she can come over and just take my food instead. I said if she wants something to eat, she can either order something for herself or she can cook something, but I'm not sharing what I ordered. Well, she said I was being too selfish and that I have enough to share, so I should be fine sharing with her. She said she's not asking for much and that I'm being unfair, but I don't see how I am since I offered to order her something multiple times. So honestly, honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now I'm really frustrated and I seriously don't know what to do. No, I don't think you're the jerk at all, but also this story is really funny to me. I mean, you did ask her multiple times, hey, do you want to order anything as well? Because I'm sure you would have ordered it no problem and brought it along with your own food. So for her to sit there after you haven't eaten for like, what, 30 plus hours and request that you give over your food to her? Like, that seems really unfair to me, and honestly, I just don't think that was okay. And I'm willing to bet that she knew you were in the hospital, right? Like, there's no way she didn't know you had to go without food for over 24 hours, right? Like, how could she know that information and then be like, oh yeah, give me some of your food? Like, if my significant other had gone through some kind of medical treatment and they had not eaten in 30 hours, I would be pampering them like crazy. I would get her food and water or whatever else she needed. But it seems like your girlfriend took a really selfish approach, and in my opinion, that is just not cool. So no, you are definitely not the jerk in this scenario, and I think the way your girlfriend tried to like turn this against you, in my opinion, is super unfair. Am I the jerk for not cleaning up garbage in my neighbor's yard? Because right now, my neighbor is upset with me as they assume that I'm the reason their yard is messy, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I live in a 2-flat with landlords in the other half, so it's important that I be a good neighbor. Otherwise, I just roll my eyes at this and move along. I'm not a huge fan of the next door neighbors and their very loud dogs, but I choose to just not interact with them. I have a small container garden that is mostly herbs, some tomatoes that do well in containers, and echinacea. Since native pollinators and other beneficial insects live or lay eggs in the dead stuff for the winter, I don't clean up last year's garden until I'm ready to plant the current year's garden. I do what I have to revive perennials early in the season, but last year's dead annuals stay put until I'm planting. As it's not quite time yet, all my annual seedings are still inside. Now, all that is to illustrate that I never have empty pots left sitting outside. The ugly dead stuff gets stacked up and pulled in towards my door, but it would have to be hurricane force winds for any of it to blow away, since we're talking about large planters full of dirt. Now, it has been a windy day here, as is common in the springtime, so some trash has been blown around. A little over a week ago, I noticed an empty pot that isn't mine sitting in my neighbor's yard, and this really will be important later on. Their dogs were playing with it, and I figured it was either theirs or it had blown in, and they were letting the dogs have some fun with it until trash day. But unfortunately, I was wrong. It turns out, since I'm the one who has a garden, they assumed it was mine, and they were stewing about it, and the fact that I didn't go over there to pick it up all week. I mean, nobody even said a word to me. Then, yesterday, I was leaving and I saw the empty pot had been stuck on top of one of my pots with a perennial echinacea in it, crushing some of the new leaves that were coming up. Now, it is a hardy plant and it will recover, but that was still a rude thing to do, especially when I have stacks of planters full of dead things they could have just put it on. My landlords happen to be outside too, and they told me that neighbor is really upset that I didn't go pick up my garbage that blew into their yard. They continue that even if it wasn't mine, it still has the appearance of being mine, since I'm the one with the patio full of planters. Never mind that all my planters match and this one didn't. Also, never mind the fact that all my planters have enough weight to not blow away at all times, and this one was completely empty. The argument is that I should have just taken responsibility for the trash planter because I also happen to engage with that hobby. For what it's worth, the planter was cracked and unusable. So honestly, what do you think? Due to my hobby, should I have grabbed this planter from their yard just to avoid the appearance of my stuff blowing over there in the wind? Even though this is not the case, just to avoid conflict? What should I do? Okay, first and foremost, there's no way I would ever put up with that. Like, not only do you not have to clean up that mess in the yard, but the fact that you also enjoy gardening doesn't suddenly mean that you're responsible for someone else's mess in another person's yard. Like, that is honestly ridiculous, and there's no good excuse for that. And the fact that your landlord would be like, oh, but it looks like it might have been yours, so it's time for you to clean it up. You need to do the right thing and avoid the appearance that it might have been you. No, I don't think you need to do that at all. I think if anything, you need to go to the neighbor that's upset with you and explain that, hey, this is not my potted plant. Mine are up there and they're definitely not blowing away. So no, this is not your responsibility, and it is absolutely insane and unfair that your landlord would assume that this is your responsibility. An entitled Karen thinks that she has the right to take anything and everything off of other people's desk, claiming that if it's out in the open, then she has every right to take it and steal it for herself. And I'm honestly still blown away by this level of entitlement that I now seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so we have this entitled jerk that works in our department. She's the secretary, so she comes in at 7 o'clock in the morning, and everyone else comes in at about 7:30. The other day she was late, which is a very rare occasion, and as soon as she came in, she came to my desk and took one of my K-cups. She then proceeded to try and use it at my Keurig on my desk. I asked her what she was doing, but she said to me that because it's out, she figured it was for anybody. I said to her, no, the things I bring in and pay for and leave at my desk are not for everybody. Then I asked her how long she's been taking my K-cups. Her response was to say, well, not every day. So I obviously told her that my things at my desk are off limits. I told some coworkers what happened, and they all said they would come into work and get the feeling that someone had been rifling through their things. So we decided someone would come in early and sit in the conference room, looking over at our desk just to see what was going on before we came in. Well, we discovered that she would come in and take things off a person's desk. She makes coffee from my machine, makes an oatmeal packet from a box someone leaves at their desk, use honey from someone else's desk, and in the meantime goes from desk to desk and just goes through people's things. She took post-it notes from one person, a pen from another one. She took one of someone else's daily vitamins. Then she ate and drank her coffee and reorganized her desk with other people's things before 7:30 when everyone else gets in. Now, obviously, we were shocked, angry, and felt very violated. I mean, how long was this going on for? We went to our boss and had a meeting to discuss what we knew was going on, and this lady saw no fault in what she did. She kept saying if it's out in the open, then anyone can use it, by following up and saying, why leave it out if you don't want people to touch it? Everybody said they felt violated and didn't think that they had to lock up post-it notes at the end of the night, but this entitled Karen just shrugged it off and saw zero problem with what she did. The boss told her to knock it off, but we just don't trust that she won't do it again. Now, as a result, everyone locks up everything in their filing cabinet at the end of the day. We thought about it and we all thought we were crazy. I would swear I had more K-cups in my box, or I knew I just brought enough snacks for the week, or I swear I had 2 pens on my desk, but somehow things would get still misplaced without my knowledge. After that fiasco, we realized all the other liberties she takes with other people's things. She would be using people's hand lotion without asking, taking candy off of someone's desk, using someone's creamer in their fridge, and we kept telling her enough is enough, but she really thinks she has a right to all of those things. So, needless to say, her entitlement is unreal, and I never in my life have ever worked with an entitled Karen that behaves this way. Okay, it is crazy to me that she didn't get in more trouble than that. She is straight up stealing from people's desk, and all she gets is a slap on the wrist. Like, seriously, what is going on right now? That is really weird to me, and it's a shame that the boss didn't take more steps to punish this entitled Karen for stealing from people. Because you know what? Chances are she probably stole from the boss as well. And here's the thing, if you work in an office setting and you know there are people around you and they have stuff out in the open, it literally goes without saying that you don't touch their stuff and you don't steal their property. So for this lady to literally be grabbing cups off this person's desk and using their coffee machine for their own benefit, that is not only disgusting but also so inappropriate. So yeah, this entitled Karen was completely out of line, and as someone who values their privacy, I would be furious if she did that to me, because there is no way in the world I would ever put up with that. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled tour guide tries to get me in trouble after I kick her out of the room for being a distraction. So when she tries to complain that I was a jerk for no reason, I decided to stand up for myself, resulting in her getting a formal warning. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened about 3 years ago. Back then, I was still working in a brewery as a brewer. At that day, one of the trainees was working in the brew house for the first time alone. An hour before I could clock off, he came to me and asked me if I could help him. So we went to the mash mill, which is the mill that will crush the malt into flour, and he told me that it isn't working anymore. We started the mill, and after a few seconds, malt started pouring out of the top part of the mill. I then climbed up the wobbly ladder that we had and started checking the small bin on top of the mill. Now, the thing was, the mill is nearly 100 years old, so we had to work carefully. So while I was digging around in the malt because I thought there was a plug in the bin, the trainee started screwing up the mill. The ladder was about 6 meters tall, so we both had to yell in order to communicate. And suddenly, the door flies open, and one of the tour guides walks in with a few guests that she was showing around. The trainee and I were still working and yelling, and suddenly this dumb idiot comes over to us and demands that we stop our work because she's doing a tour right now. Now, mind you, I was still on top of a wobbly ladder, and I really should already be home by now, so I was quite upset. I yelled back at her and said, "Shut up. Repairing the mill is more important than showing around a bunch of tourists that are only here to get wasted." Well, funnily enough, a few months prior to that, we had a meeting with the big boss. And at that meeting, the boss gave everyone who worked in production the explicit authority to expel the guides and their tours from rooms in the brewery should they in any way interfere with our work in some way, which is something that the guides knew. So I told the guide to immediately leave the malt room, which she did with an angry glare. The trainee and I then managed to fix the mill and I went home. The next day, I was ordered to the boss's office. He told me that the guide complained about me for being rude and unnecessarily expelling her from the malt room. I then admitted that I may have been harsh, but I explained that I was shoulder deep in malt on top of a ladder over time. So please just forgive me for not being in the best of moods. I then explained what exactly happened yesterday, and the trainee can confirm my story. The boss then apologized for suspecting me and sent me on my way. And thankfully, the tour guide got a stern talking to, and they were given a formal warning. Man, I love it when people who think they have all this power and authority over you try to exercise this make-believe power only to then get shut down. Like, I'm willing to guess that what was going wrong with this mill is probably really important because it seems like you really wanted to fix this sooner than later. So yeah, the way that tour guide acted was completely inappropriate, and I think you did the right thing for defending yourself because clearly she was just salty she got kicked out of that room and she obviously just wanted to get you in trouble, and that in my opinion is completely uncalled for. My entitled in-laws came to visit our baby while they had COVID, refusing to tell us that they felt sick despite the fact that my baby just had surgery. And now, even after they've left my house, I still hold a grudge against them despite my husband's protest. And at this point, I seriously don't think I'll forgive them anytime soon. Here's what happened. Okay, so my spouse and I live across the country from both of our parents. We live so far away due to work, and maybe we see our families once or twice a year. Last year, we had our first baby, and both of our parents were extremely happy. It was just me and my husband taking care of a baby by ourselves in another state. My parents came out to visit our baby first, and they were super helpful. I mean, they helped us cook and clean and watch the baby some mornings so that we could get some rest, and they ended up leaving after a couple of weeks. And then his parents came out when our baby was 2 months old, and mind you, me and my husband were exhausted. Our baby was born with clubfoot, so we had to go through weekly cast chains from the baby's toes up to his thighs. So we had Achilles tendon surgery, and now we are in braces for his feet. So it's just been really tiring for the both of us. So when his parents came out, they decided it would be smart to go to Mexico for a weekend and have a party with their family literally a couple days before seeing us. They were feeling sick and didn't tell us until after arriving, and right when we picked them up from the airport. Mind you, I'm a nurse, and I kept telling them to test for COVID since we had home test kits. They both were too proud and said no at first that they didn't have it, but I ended up making them, and yes, they did have COVID. And when I found this out, I was so heated. My husband was so hurt because we just wanted his parents to see his first baby, and they had to isolate themselves into another room. I ended up having to take care of them and feed them instead of them coming to help us out. His mom ended up having a later stay than his dad. She stayed for 2 months per my husband's request, and I could not be more ready for her to freaking leave. Her constant nagging about the house needing to be cleaned and how we weren't doing any cooking and cleaning in our brand new built house. I never snapped at her, but I really wish I would have. I have so much built up anger towards this woman. I remember one day me and my husband had no sleep with our baby the night prior, and she was in an upset mood, and she was complaining about the dust in our house. She legitimately dragged her finger across our stairs and told us to look at the dust on her finger. I seriously could not believe what she was doing. I mean, I am just so over them. They are both just so annoying. His dad tried to give the baby a Ritz cracker at 4 months old, and his mom tried to give him water without a regular cup too. His dad was so upset we didn't go to the beach when they were here. I mean, he was only here for 2 weeks, but was isolated for most of that time. Our baby literally just had surgery, and he was upset me and my husband didn't want to go. The baby couldn't even get in the water because he had his cast on still. I've talked to my husband, and he tells me it's been 8 months now, and he's telling me to just forget about it, but I can't. They are just so annoying to me, and I seriously will never get over the way that they treated us. Yeah, that really is inconsiderate. The fact that they showed up to your house after your baby had surgery, and they're like, yeah, we just don't feel well after this trip, and then they try to be like, no, we're not going to take a COVID test, only for it then to be revealed that yes, they do have COVID. All of that at once as some kind of big combo would would have driven me nuts. Like, that would have driven me up a wall. There's no way I would be okay with that. So yeah, I don't blame you for having this grudge against your in-laws, because the way they acted was so selfish. They didn't even help you for a second with your new baby, and in my opinion, that is completely inappropriate. Tonight at my serving job at the restaurant I work at, I finally lost my composure on a bunch of entitled customers who treated me like garbage after I served them for well over 4 hours. And I'm honestly still very satisfied with the way that I shut these people down. Here's what happened. Okay, I've been serving for about a year now, and I've never understood how servers can lose their cool at tables. Well, it finally happened last night. I had so many good tables last night, but I had one table that was just completely frustrating. There were 2 ladies that were lovely. I had served them for about 3 hours before another 2 ladies joined them, and I went up to the table and I said, "Hi ladies, are you just catching up or did you want to order some food?" It was very late, and the 2 ladies that recently joined had been sitting at the bar for a while, so I assumed they just recognized my table and sat down to say hi. Well, one of the ladies goes, "Obviously we came here to eat." So I grabbed her menu and I gave her some time to order. In the meantime, I helped her friend select a wine. The same lady and I were going over the wine list after she ordered her food, and she took it out of my hands and said, "Give that to me, I can read." So I just kind of left and came back later to get her order. After serving this same table for about 4.5 hours, I dropped off the check and it was sitting there empty for like 20 minutes. As I'm standing at the computer, this lady goes, "Hello," and then she whistles at me and snaps her fingers. I honestly didn't know she was trying to get my attention, but I turned around with probably the most sour expression on my face, trying to see who was addressing someone like that in the restaurant. When I realized she was addressing me like that, I unintentionally gave her a dirty look and held up my finger to tell her I just need a moment. When I went over there, she said to me, "What's with the face, sweetie?" And this is where I really messed up. I said to her, "You never need to address anyone like that. My name is Sky, so next time you need me, please refrain from calling me over like a stray dog." When I said that, all of their jaws dropped and my heart sank. I've never once gotten even close to talking back to one of my tables, but I was coming off of a 10-hour shift, and these ladies struck my last nerve. And no, they didn't even tip me, but their tab was like $40 after being there for 4 hours, so trust me, I cut my losses for that table long before they decided to leave. Yeah, those people were completely out of line. For them to snap at you and be like, "Hey, over here, what's wrong with your face? Of course I'm ordering, I want to sit down and eat." Like, all these remarks would have definitely rubbed me the wrong way as well, and I honestly just love the fact that you decided, no, I am absolutely not going to put up with that. You are not their servant, you are not their slave, they do not get to whistle you over whenever they want you. And in my opinion, I think you were just giving them the same energy they were giving you. They were acting snobby and stuck up, they were treating you like garbage, so why not return the favor? At that point, after 4 hours of serving these jerks, like seriously, who cares about a tip? Like, their behavior was atrocious, and I'm willing to bet that this is the first time anybody's called them out on that, because their jaws hit the floor. Like, you can tell that they've never been talked to like that, and they've always kind of like gotten away with it. So the fact that you called them out and put them in their place is just beautiful to me. The original poster goes on to say that apparently the manager never found out because these idiots just didn't say anything. So in my opinion, I chalk that up completely as a win, because their behavior was completely unacceptable, and they absolutely deserve to be called out. Am I the jerk for not wanting one of our roommates to move into our new place with me and my husband? Because right now, after dealing with this guy for several months, as well as his messy behavior and lack of responsibility, I'm doubting if I could ever live with him ever again. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so let me just start off by saying that I'm trying to make this as easy as possible for all parties involved. But with that being said, I'm not really sure how to work this out. For a bit of background, I'm a 29-year-old female and I got married almost 2 weeks ago. My husband and I have lived together for several years, and I am the main financial body in the home, and I handle all the bills, groceries, and finances of all kinds. A friend of ours who is a 35-year-old male, in the last several months went through a hard breakup and has been sleeping on our couch. We have just been trying to help him out, but definitely not without issue. He does give us money here and there to help out with groceries, gas, and household needs, but he also breaks several of the HOA rules our condo has. He is not on a lease as it's a private rental for us with a private owner we know, but as of the beginning of June, we have to relocate because the owner would like to sell the property. He's been very good to us and we hold no ill will towards him because of his need to sell, but we have been on the search over the last 2 months, And with this guy as our new roommate not having a place to stay, aside from him staying with us, we have considered having him come along. But as we have lived together over the last couple of months, my husband and I are finding more and more reasons for not wanting him to come with us. Now, just to name a few, we have found piles of cigarette butts on our back patio, which by the way is against the HOA rules and policies. He's also not keeping his space clean. For example, he will leave mostly full cans of soda on our table close to the edge and stack them on top of one another. He will also have dirty clothes out in the open and just leave trash everywhere. Also, he doesn't help out with household chores at all. And this includes stuff like the dishes, taking out the dogs, which one of them is his, or doing any cleaning of any kind. One thing that really gets me is him knocking once when our bedroom door is obviously closed, and then proceeding to just walk in after the first time. Now, we are looking at places to move to, and we found one very recently that would allow his 8-year-old pit bull, but it has many other rules. He would not be allowed to smoke on the property and would have to walk to the street. Mind you, it's not a big complex, but this was a big point of contention for him. He would also have to part with one of his animals, most likely his cat, because there is a limit of 2 pets per unit, and we would also be parting ways with our cats to follow this rule. He's complained about having to follow certain rules or leave his car behind, along with his inability to clean up after himself or even respect our space, and it's honestly just gotten to the point where we just don't want him to come along. So how do we nicely tell him that we want to live on our own as many married couples want to do? Because right now it seems like a very sensitive situation, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, first and foremost, I want to elaborate on something the original poster said, because they stated they would be willing to get rid of one of their cats just so they could follow the rules of this new place that they would be going to. But apparently they would only do that if they brought their friend along. But now that they've effectively changed their mind, they're not actively planning on rehoming their cats with a friend or something like that. That was immediately bothering me, but it looks like they clarified that towards the end of the story. But honestly, with that in mind, I think it really would be a good idea to sit this friend down and say, hey, we're moving out and you can't come with us. According to the original poster, they have all known about this since March 1st, and they currently have until June to figure out their living situation. And in my opinion, that is plenty of time for this guy to find something else. Like seriously, you do not have to be shackled with this guy for the rest of your life. You are under no obligation to deal with this guy on a daily basis, and you definitely do not have to feel forced to have him as a roommate, especially if he's an awful roommate. Like this guy doesn't carry his weight, he doesn't do anything to improve the situation, and I can see him being such a problem in this new place. So in my opinion, I don't think you would be the jerk for wanting your roommate to find his own place, because based on what you're describing, he did not sound like he would be a good roommate in the slightest. Am I the jerk for not comforting my brother after my dad's parents pull the rug out from underneath him? Because right now there are a lot of hard feelings around my family, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, to get the details out of the way, biologically my 20-year-old brother is my half-brother. My parents were married when he was conceived, but my mom didn't cheat, and my dad swore to raise my brother no matter what. He gave him the family middle name Benedict, and he legally adopted him. He never treated him any different to me and my younger brother. We always knew the truth though, and everyone did because it was sort of a public thing, and this includes my dad's family. Now, my dad's family are people I never really liked. I always picked up on the fact that they didn't like my older brother, and that they didn't like my mom for having him or my dad's decision to raise my brother. I remember being 10 years old and hearing some of my aunts and uncles complain with my grandfather that my brother got Benedict as a middle name when he wasn't one of us. Another time they made comments about my mom that were really derogatory and not kind at all. Now, I had mentioned it to my parents and they told me they would deal with it, and my dad told me not to worry. Well, it got more blatant in recent years. They're still careful not to say it around my parents and siblings or one of my uncle's wives, but I heard them say more disgusting things a few months ago, and I just called them out on it. They acted like my brother was some kind of like stain on the family and that he was wrong to even exist in the first place. It's not just their attitude towards my brother either. They are pretty homophobic and racist, but again, they keep it hidden from the family and my uncle's wife. So I decided I should tell my brother because he's an adult and I didn't want him getting hurt, but he didn't believe me. He called me a liar and accused me of having a personal grudge against them and trying to turn him against them for no good reason. And honestly, this really upset me. Even my parents said my dad's family had apologized for saying what they did before, but they wouldn't do it again. Karen. Well, things really hit the fan a week ago, and my dad's parents, with the support from his siblings, made it clear that my brother is not their family. He will not inherit with the rest of the grandchildren. They don't want him sitting with the family for the funeral. They threw the fact that he's not blood in his face, and the fact that he was born from some lady of the night, that they never loved him, and they had taken every measure to make sure he gets nothing, which according to them is exactly what he deserves. Now, of course, my family are all devastated, and my brother more so than anybody else. He moved back in with us temporarily, and my parents and younger brother are supporting him, but nobody has acknowledged that I did try to warn them, and I tried to help them see and even stood up for him. They told me that nobody could have seen it coming, and I was like, oh really? I must be nobody then, and I must have never said a word before. Well, they told me to focus less on myself and comfort my brother, and I told them I tried to do that and I was called a liar for it. My brother told me that I had not brought him any proof, and he just wants to feel like he's part of our family. So honestly, am I the jerk for trying to reveal the truth to my brother? Because right now, I seriously don't know what to do. Yeah, in my opinion, I kind of think you're being a jerk because it really does seem like you're making this about you. You really should be trying to focus on your brother right now and making sure he feels welcome in your family. Because right now, it seems like you're acting as if, oh yeah, I told you so, but you didn't listen. But like, really, is right now the time to be doing that? Like, your brother is clearly grieving the fact that his extended family has rejected him entirely, and you want to sit here and make it about you? Like, I really think you have your priorities mixed up. So yes, in my opinion, you are definitely the jerk. And I think if you really cared about your brother, you would put your pride aside and try to focus on him. A crazy demon Karen gets angry at a Taco Bell employee, all because she didn't have enough money for $2 chips. And after screaming for a manager and making a massive scene, this Karen gets so mad that she launches a chair out into the parking lot in a fit of rage. And I'm honestly still blown away by this interaction, and I hope I never have to deal with her ever again. Here's what happened. So just the other day, my dad and I went up to an IKEA to get some furniture for my new room, and we stopped off by Taco Bell for lunch. My dad got me to run in and get some food for us, so I went in and placed my order and was starting to fill up my drinks when the demon Karen entered the restaurant. She went up to the front register and slammed down a cup with a few coins in it, demanding, or at least what I presume she was going on about, some $2 chips. After getting denied about not having enough cash with her, she asked all the customers, including me, if she can have some money. Well, as you can probably imagine, everyone stayed silent and just stared at her. So after complaining a little bit, she then says, "This is Taco Bell, a multi-million-dollar company. They had better comply with my request." And it was at that moment she did the only thing that her species does in distress. She demanded to speak to a manager. But here's the thing. The person she was arguing with the entire time was the manager herself. At this point, the demon Karen lost her mind. She screamed at the manager for her chips, and then for some reason, she turned around and gave me the dirtiest look for some reason. I mean, I'm just standing over here filling up my drinks. I was so confused. She then turned back to the manager and said it has been 15 minutes and that she's demanding they give her free food. But obviously, the manager said no. Now, my food was ready at this point, so I was about to collect it and was gonna go back to where I was. But before I could even do that, she tried to take my food, but thankfully, another employee took my food before she could get it. And once that happened, this demon Karen stormed outside in anger. After she was gone, the employees apologized for the inconvenience. I collected my food, and then I went outside to my dad. And just as I'm exiting the door, this entitled Karen was on her way back inside. I got in the car and I told my dad about what just happened, and just as we were about to leave, a chair was literally thrown into the parking lot. We sat there staring at this for a few minutes, all before we decided to leave in absolute fear. And hopefully we never have a run-in with this demon Karen ever again. Okay, I will never understand why people get upset at fast food restaurants, especially at a place like Taco Bell. Look, if you like Taco Bell, that's fine, but the only reason I would ever go there is because I literally have no other options in life. Like, there better be no other food available within like a 5-mile radius for me to go into that restaurant. Again, if you like Taco Bell, good for you. But for me, it's just not my cup of tea. So for this demon Karen to storm into Taco Bell and freak out, all over $2 chips, like, that is crazy to me. Like, there is no reason to act like that. And I also just can't imagine not having enough money for $2 chips and then taking it out on the manager all because you don't have your stuff together. And the fact that they threw a chair into the parking lot over this, like, this is what set you off. Like, really? Like, God knows I've had my own stresses in life, but I don't think I'll ever get to the point where I'm like catapulting chairs through a Taco Bell parking lot. So I think the silver lining here is at least you got your food at the end of the day, and that demon Karen was not able to like take it from you before you could run off with it. it. Because clearly not getting those $2 chips absolutely unhinged her. And I know if I was in that situation, I would be speeding off in fear as well. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for ignoring my husband during our flight when he expressed anxiety over flying? Because right now he's upset with me and he simply won't let it go. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 33-year-old female and I recently married my husband, and we took a 3-hour flight to Mexico for our honeymoon. Now, I fly a lot for my job, so I've racked up a lot of miles. My husband isn't a big fan of flying, though he has gotten better and tends to just hold my hand and close his eyes during takeoff and during landing. And he's mostly okay when he's in the air. When I booked our flights, I requested to use my points if an upgrade to business class became available, but I made it clear I only wanted this upgrade if 2 seats became available, and then I basically forgot about it. Then comes the day for our flight, and I was so excited for this trip. I checked us in online, all was going well, and then when we go to board, the person scanning our boarding passes stops us. She says it seems that my husband was upgraded to business class, but only him, and asked if that's okay. I immediately say no. We are on our honeymoon and we would like to stay together. But then my husband jumps in and says, "No, it's fine, I'll go to business class." I look at him in complete shock, and he tells me that I fly all the time, and I have been in business class before, but he hasn't, so he deserves a chance to experience it for himself. I see we are holding up the line, so I feel like I just need to agree and get on the plane. Now, to say that I'm upset is an understatement. He is all smiles, taking his seat, and I go back to my seat where they sit me next to an old woman with a baby on her lap, where my husband should be sitting. Within maybe 5 or 10 minutes of sitting there, trying to hold back tears because my husband left me alone on our flight during our honeymoon and uses my points for his upgrade no less, he starts to text me saying he feels anxious over flying, but I just ignore the text messages and stop looking at my phone. Within maybe an hour after we're in the air, he comes to the back of the plane to find me, offers me half of his business class breakfast, and asks me why I was ignoring him, that he was scared and needed me to tell him that it'd be okay since I'm such an experienced flyer. I told him that maybe he should have thought about that before leaving me alone before our honeymoon even really began. He gets angry and tells me that this may be the only time he gets to fly business class, and he was giving me half his breakfast to make up for it, so I could at least be supportive of his genuine fear. Well, I just roll my eyes sarcastically and I say thanks, and he just goes back to his seat. When we landed, I tried to move on and forget about it so that we could just enjoy our honeymoon, but he guilt-tripped me about not comforting him via text messaging before takeoff, and now I'm wondering if I'm being unreasonable and should have just let him enjoy his time in business class and ensure him that it'd be okay. So honestly, am I the jerk? Because seriously, right now, I am not sure what to do. No, I do not think you're the jerk at all. Your husband jumped at the chance to be in business class, even though you made it very clear that it's either both of us or none of us. He willingly used your miles just to get up there, and in my opinion, that's really inconsiderate. Like, I can completely understand why you would be upset, because I think if I was in your shoes, I would be upset as well. Like, he made a very selfish and questionable decision on this particular instance, and it really threw you under the bus. And you know what? I don't blame you for ignoring the text messaging, because the way you felt in this moment was completely justified. And if he seriously wanted you to comfort him during this flight, then he should have stayed in the back with you instead of going up to business class. Because in my opinion, that is incredibly selfish, and I really think that this was an unfair thing for him to do. An angry old jerk is furious with me when I don't let him into my store literally an hour before we open. And despite my best efforts to try and explain to him how this business operates, he simply refused to listen, making my life a living nightmare as he hobbled away, claiming that I just lost a customer. And honestly, I'm so done with entitled jerks like this, and I seriously hope I never see that guy ever again. Here's what happened. Okay, I want to start off by saying that this just happened earlier today. I'm the store manager at a department store, and I pulled up to the store before any of my associates about an hour or so before opening. I park a little ways away from the entrance to allow closer parking for our guests, and I notice an older gentleman standing off to the side of our building, which is about 300 feet away from the entrance. This is nothing unusual per se, as this is a retirement city, and the retirees with nothing better to do just ramble around the town on their golf carts and frequent the little shops around the area. So I finish my coffee, open the door, and begin walking to the entrance to open it. I noticed the guy was starting to walk my way, but didn't think anything of it because people pass by all the time, even this early in the morning. I unlock the door, step inside, and then I shut it. Then I began walking to the back of the store. About halfway to the back, I hear a a slam of the doors, as if someone is trying to open them while they're locked. I turn around and it's the same guy. I cautiously walk back to the entrance, scoping him out to make sure he isn't homeless or someone trying to rob me. And by the time I get to the front, he's got his face on the glass with both his hands cupping over his eyes just to help him see inside. But that's only because none of the lights are on yet, except for the emergency lights, as I don't turn them on until closer to opening. After clearing him for threats, I open the door and begin to ask if I can help him with anything, as he immediately begins to brush past me to presumably enter. I obviously stop him and explain that we aren't open yet, and that we will be opening in just a little over an hour. Well, he looks at me in disbelief. He says to me, "What do you mean? I just watch you unlock the door and walk in." And when he said that, I chuckled just a little bit, assuming this was just some kind of awful dad joke, which seemed to only make him more upset. I then explained to him that I'm here to open the store and get it ready for guests to shop in. He then asks me what there even is to get ready, and then tells me if he needs to buy anything, I can just check him out. At this point, I'm still in disbelief, but I try not to let that influence guiding him through this tough time in his life. And I go ahead and tell him how I need to open up the cash registers. I need to count money drawers and make sure any guest accessible areas are free of clutter and racks and all this other stuff, along with office tasks and checking the emails for any merchandise updates. But he responds with an eloquently stated, "Oh, I don't care about all that. Explain to me why everybody else is open right now then." I looked across our parking lot to the hardware store he was pointing at and simply told him that we just have different business hours. Some people get up early to do their home projects, but not as early to shop for clothing and shoes. He tells me they probably would shop that early if we opened sooner. Now, I've learned to not argue with idiots, so I just tell him the store hours are set by corporate and that we have no control over when we open. After a few more crazy comments that prove his lack of understanding how businesses work, and me trying to be as polite as I possibly can, he ends his performance by throwing his hands up in the air and saying to me, "That doesn't make any sense. None of it does, and you're losing customers like this, and you just lost me as a customer." He then just walks away, but honestly, whatever. Again, there are literally no other cars in the parking lot. Even he didn't even park there. All of the store lights were off, and our second entrance's storm door was still down. In no way would any right mind think that we're open, and then to argue with me over normal business procedures is just crazy to me. This is not the interaction I've had, but honestly, I wanted to share this just to get this off of my mind. Wow, that guy was a complete jerk. Like, not only is he there way before opening, but he's also making the biggest deal out of this possible. Like, seriously, it's just a store. You can't like go get breakfast and then come back, or even like, I don't know, be more reasonable in some kind of way, because this behavior is like super weird, and it honestly is completely uncalled for. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for being angry at my best friend, all because she replaced me and tried to flirt with my close friend just to hurt me? Because right now, I am still incredibly hurt by this, and at this point, I really don't know what to do. Okay, so for a bit of context, I'm still in high school, and this happened about a year ago. During my time there, I was extremely short, and I mean like extremely short. And that was just genetics, and I would inevitably grow, but nonetheless, I had always thought it was my source of all of my problems, ever since people wouldn't talk to me as a pre-teenager, and that really affected my body image. I eventually did get friends, but even then, pretty much every day, they would mock me for being shorter than everyone else. But around September 2 years ago, I met a friend who was funny, kind, and never called me any names, which made me respect them far more, and in turn, want to be around them. They were also a girl, and since I'm attracted to girls, she helped me through so much by not calling me names, and as a result, I naturally developed feelings for her. We communicated every single day, even staying up until midnight in some cases, no matter if it was a weekday or not, and with the way we talked, I was sure she also liked me. We quickly became best friends and would do everything together, and I mean everything. I constantly went to her house and I ate with her instead of my previous toxic friends. But around 6 to 7 months ago, a new girl came into my school, let's call her Michelle, that's not her real name, and being the nice person that she is, or rather she was, she helped them around the school and invited her to eat with us. Now, I had no problem with this. I figured the more the merrier, and I was happy to have another non-toxic friend, but I soon realized that the tone in her voice and the way she was acting seemed like she was almost trying to replace me. Now, this is not me being jealous, because soon enough, she would speak to me spitefully, such as saying that she didn't care if I couldn't come to her house, or blatantly and deliberately walking off with her and trying to leave me behind. She would also constantly mention that she missed Michelle during conversations and would also act bored around me. Soon enough, it was like like she was trying to ditch me, hurrying away from me to talk to her and leaving me standing in mid-conversation and completely ignoring me during breaks. Now, just to clarify, this is no fault of Michelle. She's a wonderful person that has no fault in this and would later become a good friend of mine. Anyways, it was clear to me as well that if I wanted to confess to her, I would have to do it soon, as she herself claimed that our friendship lost our spark. While confessing in a nice way, she told me something that I will never forget. She told me that she added a tally to guys who liked her. She hurt me so badly, seeing as all of those guys just came up to her one day and asked her out, whereas I took years to develop emotions for her. She then proceeded to decline me, later claiming that she never liked me and those flirting sessions were just friendliness. The heartbreak that I felt was horrible. After that, she made it an excuse to stop talking to me. All of this was happening while someone I knew had just passed away and a close friend having their tongue removed due to cancer. I was so young to be dealing with all of this, and it was the worst experience of my entire life. My mental health was awful, and at the same time, I was still mentally growing and dealing with all of this at the same time. I tried telling my best friend this, but she straight up told me that she did not care, and I was so devastated. Then something happened that would make me fume. She started flirting with an extremely close friend right in front of me. This is not her friendly way of speaking. This was her changing her voice to a high pitch and also giving off genuine flirtatious looks. I was considering some dark things at the time, and the thing is, she's still doing it. She's still flirting with him, and it appears that I can't be around Michelle either, because if she sees us together, she grabs her and asks, "Oh my god, where have you been?" As well as her saying stuff like, "Why did you go to him?" I want to tell my close friend that she is not actually interested, because I can firsthand tell you that she's not truly interested in him, and that Michelle is in a controlling friendship, but I feel like it's not my place and that I just can't do it. And I'm also just still processing this whole ordeal. So that of course leaves the question, am I the jerk for being jealous with my former best friend? Because right now I seriously don't know what to do. Wow, I really think you need to find new friends. This lady sounds awful. She very clearly doesn't like you, which is like whatever, that's totally fine. But for her to almost go out of her way to try and make you feel horrible, while also like denying you the chance to be friends with people around you, and almost making a show of the fact that she doesn't like you but she likes your friend, like that is an entirely different level of toxic that truly you do not deserve that in the slightest. You don't deserve to be treated that way. And honestly, I think it would be in your best interest to just move on and find anybody else to be around. And I totally get where you're coming from. You feel jealous that she's flirting with other people, but you really need to understand that she is not a good person. This is not a good friend, and clearly she was only using you for some kind of attention, and it seemed like she didn't have any kind of like genuine bone in her body. And yes, that is hard to hear, but I think it would be better to accept that now so you can eventually move on and find people who actually do care about you, because this lady does not care about you at all, and I think that you absolutely deserve better friends who actually care about you. My partner's siblings has treated me like garbage, constantly saying terrible things about me, painting me as an awful narcissistic girlfriend, despite the fact that I've not done anything to them. And now one of his older siblings is getting married, and he feels like he's forced to go. And right now I'm deciding that I'm gonna stay home and stay away from this situation, as I simply do not want to be around these toxic people. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So about a year ago, my partner's two older sisters sent me text messages that they were no longer interested in having a relationship with me and decided to cut off communication completely. Like literally one day they just never answered the phone ever again. As a result, they've almost completely lost touch with my partner and our kids because I was the one who maintained communication and shared photos and sent gifts. I mean, we had a good relationship. They live a plane ride away, but we talked on the phone pretty regularly, saw each other a couple times a year, and enjoyed holidays together. In fact, last spring, I hosted a party for my partner's grad school graduation and party, and I definitely invited them as well. But they resented that I didn't include them in the planning process and said that they couldn't come. I reached out to the oldest sister who I was particularly close with and offered to eliminate basically any barrier to them coming, including paying for their traveling or flying him out there over the summer to celebrate with them separately. But I did it in the most no pressure fashion, literally saying that of course you don't have to have any reason at all for not coming. Sometimes these things just don't work out. You have to honor and do what is right for you, and I love you. Well, his read on it now is that they didn't care enough or just didn't want to come, and then felt like they looked guilty when it became clear that they didn't have an excuse. So it created this huge conflict to deflect responsibility onto me. They then piled on all these other things that I had apparently done over the previous 5 years, which showed my true colors as some kind of crazy, narcissistic, awful girlfriend. They've built up this image of me in their heads that they know is completely contrary to who I am and will be shattered the second they see or talk to me again. So they just pretend I don't exist and speak their poison. I spent the better part of 8 months absolutely distraught over this. I come from a family where most anything can be worked out with a talk and a hug. It was incredibly painful to watch this turn from hours to weeks to months, all with no words being spoken to me. I tortured myself, racking my brain for anything I might have done to make them hate me, reviewing all the things I ever said to them, and trying to figure out how I could have said them differently, or maybe just apologizing, or giving them space, or reaching out. All of this until I eventually just gave up. He took the kids to his mom's to see them for a few hours around Christmas, and they've Zoomed with the kids maybe twice. Other than that, there's been no communication other than his mom sending us all emails that she had written with her therapist to try and mend things. Which then brings us to the current issue. His older sister sent a save the date for her wedding in June. We've been talking about it and working through this in therapy. Ultimately, I think he is leaning towards going because he would feel guilty if he didn't. He feels like if there's any hope at reconciliation in the future, they will just use the fact that he didn't go against him. And there's a part of both of us that feels like it's the right thing to do for the kids. As sickening as it is for me to make him go on a big trip alone and miss the kids' first time on a plane, I had to prioritize myself and say I could not go. I refused to put myself in the position of being somewhere I am not welcome. And honestly, as a people pleaser who is endlessly forgiving and generally avoids conflict, I'm proud of myself for doing it. I told him I can't go, but he should do what he feels is right. He took so long considering this that I finally said, it really seems like you can't in good conscience not go. So let's just decide you're going and move forward. Now, he hasn't booked a plane ticket or booked a hotel, and our whole summer is on hold because of another vacation conflict. And I'm also waiting to see if we're spending thousands of dollars on this trip. I finally told him today that I really need to know his decision, and he said to me, I need to know if you will hold it against me for going. Like an honest answer and not what you think I want to hear. Until now, I've tried to support his decision while honoring my truth. He knows how I feel, but he also knows we will be okay regardless of this decision, and that the same can't be said for his sisters. Now, me personally, I don't want him to go. I think it sends the message that it's fine for them to be totally cruel to me with no consequences, and that he is fine celebrating special occasions and holidays with his family without me from now on. It honestly just breaks my heart. I want him to put his foot down and say, if you can't treat the person I love like a human being and are fine trying to break up my family, then you are no longer a safe person for my children and me to be around. It also just makes no sense to me. Why would you go to the wedding of someone you're almost completely estranged from? I keep telling myself that family is family, and I would never not go to my brother's wedding. But my brother would never alienate my partner and be so cruel either. I don't know what I'm asking. I think I'm afraid I will hold it against him even though I don't want to. I feel like he wants me to make the decision for him, and that's just honestly pissing me off. I wish he would just say, I'm going to go, and I know that's going to be hard for you, and it's going to take some work between us, but I feel like it's the right decision. So seriously, has anyone been in a similar situation? And does anyone have any insight that would be helpful in some kind of way? What should I do? I think you need to tell your boyfriend everything you literally just said in this post. I completely understand where you're coming from, where you have extended family that treat you like garbage, who alienate you but then treat your partner like, oh yeah, nothing's wrong. But it's like, what are you talking about? Literally everything is wrong right now. So I think maybe talking to your partner and being like, hey, this is exactly how I feel, and maybe going into more detail of like your expectations for him, as well as like the rock and the hard place you both find yourself in. Like, I think that really would make a big difference in my opinion, because you said it yourself, the way these people are treating you is completely inappropriate, and hopefully this situation can get better sooner than later. My crazy entitled neighbor gets angry with me and my girlfriend after we try to talk to him about an issue that we have. Things got so bad that he even stated he was going to get violent with us, claiming that he can make our lives a living nightmare. And now me and my partner feel very stuck, as we are going to be in this lease for the next 5 months. And at this point, we seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so this just happened maybe about an hour ago, so it is still pretty fresh. All names in this story have been changed just for safety. I'm a 29-year-old male, and my partner, who's a 27-year-old female, moved in together in the summer of last year into a little neighborhood south of the city where we live. Now, it is mostly quiet and peaceful, that is, except for our neighbors. This man is 72 years old. He's retired with a Blue Lives Matter flag hanging on his flag post every single day, along with the state flag and the American flag. we generally don't mind too much as we keep to ourselves. But up until this point, we had a mostly friendly, albeit disingenuous friendship, since every time I talked to him, he would find some way to inject his weird political talking points into the conversation. He mentioned how he and a few of his buddies are ready to go down to the border and defend our country, how he wants to take a bulldozer to any unhoused encampments that he sees, specifically feeling the urge to say that people inside the tents should not be alive. So yeah, that's the kind of person that I get to deal with. Now, my partner's little brother also lives with us. He's 19 years old, he's in college, and he does DoorDash with his spare time. Once before, our neighbor has come over and hassled him when neither my partner nor I are home, and this is all over such weird stuff, such as leaves being knocked over in a bag, or even trash cans not being closed properly, or whatever else he feels the issue of the month is. My partner and I were running errands when my brother-in-law started texting us about how he came over and was very aggressively mad about the recycling bin being in the street for a full day after trash day. He was very uncomfortable with the situation, and when I got home, my partner and I went over there to see exactly what the issue was, just so we can prevent anything from happening in the future, and to make sure that he doesn't come hassle a teenager with these issues, and to just come to me and my partner directly. Now, we knocked on his door to try and calmly ask him not to do that, and to just bring up anything directly to me, since my brother-in-law is basically a child and shouldn't have to worry about any of this. My partner works at a smoke shop as a manager and was able to pinpoint that he definitely was plastered immediately. When we started talking, he was getting visibly agitated that we came over to his house to try and figure out what the issue was, and he kept interrupting me while I was trying to explain why he can't come over and hassle my brother-in-law when we aren't home. At one point, my partner cut him off after he interrupted me, and he just lost it. He started getting confrontational with her, saying that she should watch her mouth when she's on his property, and that he can make our lives a lot harder, even leading to him making veiled threats of violence. Now, the conversation got extremely heated when he threatened to make our lives harder because we're currently renting and the landlord apparently is a friend of his. Now, here's the thing. He never has spoken to me like this, even when we've had our disagreements in the past about minimal things. But him being interrupted by a woman clearly just set him on fire. At one point, he even insulted us for renting instead of having purchased the house, even though we are actively saving for a house in a very expensive city, and accusing my partner of not having a degree. Now, he has never come at me with any of these kinds of insults before, so it honestly was very jarring. I have helped this guy multiple times with things such as carrying lumber for him to his truck, as well as helping him with planting and even giving him pastries I make at work, and he immediately goes on the aggressive when boundaries are set. We left the situation and called our landlord immediately to explain what happened, and needless to say, she was shocked because the neighbor and her aren't really good friends, and they haven't even spoken in months. And even when they do speak, it's about things like property line fence repair and stuff like that. We have 5 more months on this lease before we are out of this place, but I've never had a situation happen like this before. And now I'm concerned about him getting more unhinged and going out of his way to make our lives harder and just bothering us. And at this point, my partner and I seriously don't know what to do. Man, having a neighbor that's insane seriously is the worst. For me personally, my house is my safe haven. It's the one place where I want to get away from the crazy people of the world, and along with that, I just want to have normal neighbors. Having people who are intrusive or aggressive like the psychopath in this story seriously are just the worst things to deal with, because you always feel on edge, you're not sure what they're gonna do, and it's just always a problem no matter what. So in my opinion, as someone who has dealt with several bad neighbors in the past, it might be time to set up cameras around your property. I know if I was in your shoes, I would be talking to the landlord and say, hey, I don't feel safe around this guy, and I definitely want to have some kind of camera system. And the best thing about it is that these cameras, for the most part nowadays, are pretty easy to install. Like, you can literally have a doorbell that has a camera on it, and you can also sync up like other cameras around your property into that same system. And based on what you're describing, honestly, that might be a good idea. Also, if I was in your shoes, I would be going to the police. This guy literally said he was going to get violent with you guys. He was saying how he's going to make your life a living nightmare. Like, that kind of language is so disrespectful, and it is absolutely uncalled for. There's no good excuse for that, and you don't have to put up with that. So hopefully you can get out of there sooner than later, because this neighbor sounds like a nightmare. And I know if I was in your shoes, I would be miserable and absolutely not want to deal with this. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Would I be the jerk if I didn't have my sister be a bridesmaid at my future wedding, all because of the way she she's treating me while I'm a bridesmaid in her wedding. Because right now I feel very upset, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, my sister is getting married in May. We always talked about having each other as a maid of honor since we are each other's only sister. But when she got engaged, she did not have me as her maid of honor and instead gave that spot to my sister-in-law. Now, I'm not gonna lie, it really hurt my feelings and I tried to accept it. She changed her mind a month later due to my parents throwing a fit, and now we're sharing the title of maid of honor. Then I had to plan the bachelorette, and I was planning it based off of what she was texting me that she wanted. However, my sister-in-law and my sister's future sister-in-laws fought me on every single choice that I made, claiming that she wanted the polar opposite, and when we all tried talking to her about it, she got mad we couldn't resolve it on our own. Eventually, the bachelorette comes around. I flew across the country to attend, and everyone completely ignored me at the bachelorette. None of the decor that I purchased was used, and the sister-in-laws took credit for the things that I had done for the trip. The first night, I went to tell my sister and other girls in the hot tub to turn the volume down to avoid a $500 noise violation fine from the Airbnb, and my sister says, ignore her, she's such a jerk, which really hurt a lot because I put a lot of effort into the trip. The next day, I offered to do a coffee run while they were at the first bar because I didn't feel like drinking yet and I needed a coffee. Well, in the 10 minutes that I was gone, they took the one and only group picture from the trip without me present. I also found out that day that it was my sister who told my parents that I was bisexual last year without my permission, and I never wanted them to know since they don't agree with that. When I said how upset I was, she just said to me, you probably snitched on me for something and you just deserved it. After the bachelorette, I was incredibly upset, and when I tried talking to her about it, she only apologized by saying, I'm sorry you feel that way, and tried to defend her actions but never actually said she was sorry for hurting me. I have barely heard from her ever since, and I also found out recently all the bridesmaids are getting their nails done together for the wedding, and I was not told about this at all. When I talked to my sister about it, she went on to say, well, I didn't know you were actually flying back, which she very easily could have texted me to ask me about that. Now, this leaves me debating if I'm the jerk for what I'm planning on doing. I know I'm getting engaged in the very near future, maybe next month I think, and I just don't know if I want her to be in the bridal party at all. She has been mean to our entire family in her wedding planning process, and she has not made an effort to contribute to a relationship with me in the last few years. She doesn't even know what state I live in, even though I've lived here for years. So I really need to know, would I be the jerk if I don't have her as a bridesmaid in my bridal party once I get engaged? Because honestly, I'm feeling very frustrated, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Yeah, I don't blame you for feeling this way at all, because it sounds like your sister is being super toxic to you for like no reason. She's completely ignoring how you feel, and almost like going out of her way to throw you under the bus, and she's excluding you from everything going on in the wedding itself. Like, if I was in your shoes, I might even be questioning if I want to be in this bridal party at all. So no, in my opinion, you are not the jerk for feeling upset about this, and I don't blame you for being upset too, by the way, because the way your sister's acting is honestly uncalled for, and I would not fault you for a minute if you decided that you don't want her as a bridesmaid in your future wedding. Am I the jerk for refusing to babysit for my aunt until she pays for my phone that her kids broke? Because right now I'm being called rude, and at this point I'm not sure what to do. Here's what happened. So my aunt and cousins are visiting from Boston. They are on school break right now, and I'm in school currently. Now, both of these kids are 6 years old, and they both are very rough. And since my mom and her sister seem to have a lot of catching up to do, they are out basically every single day. That leaves me and my brother and my other sister to babysit, and they are basically no help. On Saturday, I wanted to actually make them baked mac and cheese, and after putting the butter on the pan, I went to go get the flour, and I guess they thought it would be funny if they decided to put my phone on the stove, because they moved the pan and put my phone directly on the stove. I would say it was probably there for at least 45 seconds before I noticed it was actually on the stove itself, and eventually I took it off, but there was a burning smell, as well as the screen not really working. My dad sometimes will help me with them, but he was at the gym when all of this happened, and as a result, I ended up just making them something else. When my mom and aunt got back home, I immediately showed them my phone, and my mom was mad, but kind of became less mad when she found out it was my cousin's. My aunt basically said, oh well, and then tended to her kids. So as a result, I told her not to expect anything from me until my phone is fixed. At the time, we couldn't really get any money back for it breaking, and my aunt basically jumped on me and said, oh, I can't afford that. For reference, the deductible deductible for the phone was about $175. And she even said that she can't afford it, even though she didn't even know the cost of it. Well, my mom and my sister are both mad at me for being rude and for making mom miss out on quality time with her sister. And now she just mumbles and grumbles every time I walk by her. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now I am incredibly frustrated, and I seriously now don't know what to do. I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think the way you reacted is completely reasonable. Your aunt literally needs to pay for that phone because it's her demon children that caused it to break in the first place. Like, it really does sound like the original poster is relatively responsible, so I am hard pressed to judge them as someone who would put their phone on like a heated stove. I know I've put my phone in weird places, but it would never be in a place where it would obviously get broken or damaged or like, I don't know, heated up on a stovetop. Like, I don't think anyone would willingly put it there, especially if they're doing something that requires concentration, like, I don't know, cooking a meal. And you know what? It is so rude for your mom and sister to be acting like, oh my god, stop being mean. You're distracting from my time with my sister. It's like, no, you're distracting me from having a phone that works. Because the fact of the matter is that her kids are the ones that broke that phone. You didn't do that on purpose, it was her kids. And I think the right thing to do would be to pay for it and find some kind of replacement for the original poster. So no, you are definitely not the jerk, and I think your aunt is absolutely on the hook. And anyone who says otherwise, in my opinion, is completely out of their mind. Today, I found a phone recording me while I was changing in my closet. And now, after I found out that it's my stepdad's phone, I feel completely freaked out. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 20-year-old female, and I always change in my closet. And yesterday, I woke up, took my shower, and came back to my room to change into my clothes. Typically, I'll bring clothing into my bathroom on shower days, but yesterday was the exception. So anyways, I went back in and I reached for something on the ground, and I saw a phone between my stuffed animals. I picked it up and I saw that it had been recording for the last 14 minutes. And mind you, I had only been in the closet for a minute at this point, so it was set up right after I went to take a shower. I freaked out and I brought it straight to my mom because lo and behold, this was my 40-year-old stepdad's phone. Now, I have no idea why he would do this. He's been in my life since I was really little. We're talking like 8 years old. So I am really confused right now. He's always tried to act like my father, asking me to call him dad, and in the last few years has been giving me hugs. My mom took my side and asked him to stay somewhere else while everything was being figured out. My mother and his mother are thinking it might have something to do with his alcoholism, as he does drink every night, but I have no idea. I reviewed the video yesterday and you can see him come into my closet, put it between my stuffed animals, and then move them a little so they hide the phone. And then he even moves one of my jackets so it doesn't block the view, just so he can get the perfect video of me. When my mom confronted him, she said he looked genuinely shocked and confused, as if he didn't remember doing that. With blackouts, you can forget events, I guess, but I just feel like he didn't black out. I mean, maybe, but it just seems way too easy for him to get out of it like that. He also said something about me needing to report him to the police. My mom took that as him being blacked out and doing something that he would have never done, but I took that as him being guilty and a master manipulator. I feel so violated right now. You know, in those games where you get to pick what you do, and then at the end you have the option to go back and see what could have happened? I wish I could do one of those right now because I'm so confused. If he truly blacked out, what was he going to do about his phone? Would he have remembered it, or what would have happened to it? I also feel bad because he's the father of my little brothers and my mother's husband, but at the same time, who would do this? She asked me if I thought I could ever forgive him if he got help, and at first, in shock, I said maybe, but after thinking about it and seeing the video and sleeping on it, today I just don't think that I could. My mom is having me see a counselor and a therapist to talk about what happened, so I guess that is kind of good. I am thinking of taking time off of work because this really is turning my world upside down, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. First of all, I want to say I am so sorry this happened to you. Like, this is so violating, it's not even funny. This is so incredibly bad, and I'm so sorry that you're going through this because you definitely do not deserve this. But on that note, I completely agree with the original poster. I don't think this guy blacked out at all. I think that's a very convenient excuse, and he's using that as some kind of way of having very convenient amnesia. Like, I'm sorry, you hid a phone in the closet literally so you could check out your stepdaughter. This guy has problems, and there is literally no good excuse for that. So if I was in your shoes, and I can only speak for myself, but I would not feel bad about reporting him if I did decide to go that route, which in my opinion is not a bad idea at all. And I would not care about his status as my stepdad or as a father or a husband at all. Like, all of that went out the window. Any kind of trust I would have for him or anything like that, It is now completely out the window because this guy very clearly had some ulterior motives. He was up to something very different and very sketchy, and you do not deserve this in the slightest. So seriously, I really hope this all works out for you. I hope you're able to get away from your stepdad completely, and I think in my opinion, especially if I was in your shoes, that I would call the police and get this reported immediately, because this behavior is not normal, and I would not accept any excuse that anyone would try to give me. My boyfriend woke me up in the dead of night to try and make me go do laundry for him, and after dealing with this type of behavior for several months now, I seriously am at a crossroads, and at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my boyfriend and I have been together for 5 months. We're both in college, but I don't have any roommates, so he basically lives in my dorm room. I would say like 90% of his stuff is in my room, including just about all of his clothes. Now, he does keep some in his room because it's on the other side of campus, so sometimes it's just more convenient to have an outfit or two over there. Now, I've asked him many times to help me with the laundry. I'm autistic and I have trouble doing chores and stuff with someone else in the room unless they're also doing a task, but I have the easiest time when someone's helping me out. So I'll ask him to match the socks or put shirts on hangers while I do the folding, but he never has. Sometimes he goes with me to the laundry room to put stuff in or switch it over or to bring it back, but even then, I usually have to specifically ask him to help, and he complains about it the entire time. Well, this morning I was woken up by him shaking me and telling me that he needs laundry done. I tried telling him to do it and go back to sleep, but he kept shaking me, and eventually I couldn't go back to sleep, which was just in time for him to roll over and do so himself. Now, I'm starting to get upset, and I feel like I shouldn't. I want to talk to him about it, especially because we're moving into an apartment together this summer, but I don't really feel like I have a right to be upset here because after all, it is my dorm room. I've spent a lot of my life growing up too fast and taking care of adults that should have been taking care of me. I don't know where to draw the line when it comes to boundaries with this kind of stuff, but we both work, so I don't want to be stuck doing all the chores in our home when we move in. But I don't know if addressing anything while we're still living in the dorm room is the right call, and I don't know if I'm just being paranoid. Now, for some context, I know it's too soon to move in together since I'm 19 years old and he's 21, but we are doing so that I can start working for our school full time. I'm required to have a local address outside of the dorms to do so, and I can't afford to live in our city on my own. Also, he has taken his laundry back to his room and has done his own loads there. I'm just frustrated with the lack of help that I'm getting because I still have to wash our sheets and our work clothing and whatever else he has here at the time. I'm honestly just so very frustrated, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Wow, your boyfriend is being super rude to you right now. You mean to tell me that he woke you up in the middle of the night, shook you awake and said, "Hey, I need my clothes washed," and instead of just doing it himself, like going and physically doing it, he decided to roll over and go to sleep, basically leaving you on the hook to do all this work? Like, that is incredibly rude, and in my opinion, that's like the straw that breaks the camel's back in this scenario, because it's pretty obvious that this is like a repeated situation that just keeps on happening. He's not helping you with the laundry or like with the dorm in general, and he's basically moved into your dorm entirely. So when you say, "Oh, I don't have the right to be upset because it's my dorm," well, in my opinion, it's his dorm as well. If he's living there full time and choosing to stay there over his own place, then in my opinion, he lives there as well. So he absolutely should be required to carry his weight. So I think it would be completely appropriate for you to have a conversation with him and to try and work this out well before you guys move in together. Because trust me, once you have a lease locked in and you both are on that lease and you can't just move out all of a sudden, that in my opinion is not the time to try and start addressing this. And instead, I really feel like if I was in your shoes, I would be addressing this like right now. It doesn't mean that you don't love him, and it doesn't mean that you don't care about him as a person. It just means that you care enough to set some kind of boundary and to say, "Hey, this is the stuff that I really need help with." So hopefully this all works out in some kind of way, because what your boyfriend did that night is completely unacceptable. And if anything, it just shows how lazy he's currently being, and that is something that you definitely do not deserve. My crazy psychopathic boss makes my life a living nightmare for well over a year, all because I caught them in the act of doing something super illegal at work. But now, after dealing with this for so long, I decided to blow the whistle and get them in trouble. And not only did I get him and his team fired from their job, but they also got reported to the government. And I've honestly never felt better about getting revenge on my boss in my life. Here's what happened. So I started a new job 3 years ago in the public service, and my department was in the hands of a psychopathic narcissist. Immediately, the narcissist started love bombing me. Now, Me personally, I don't care about validation or the extra attention. I'm at work to work and I love doing my job. Well, that then became my problem because I had utility and the narcissistic department head wanted to keep me close, all so I could make them look really good. Fast forward 12 months and a role became available on this jerk's leadership team. I applied and I was very successful. A few months after I commenced my new role on the leadership team, I became very aware of some really awful things that were happening. Some really fraudulent and corrupt stuff undertaken by my boss and two of my colleagues. Maybe they thought I was one of them and I would buy into their business practices, but instead, I called it out and I challenged what I had observed. Now, everyone who has been fortunate enough to meet a narcissist are very well aware of narcissistic rage, because what I then experienced was next level. I was sat down and verbatim told to shut up, and I was then instructed to never speak again. Obviously, I became an instant threat to all three of these corrupt jerks, which subsequently led to me being unbearably mobbed for the next 12 months, all in some kind of desperate attempt to get me to resign. Now, to be honest, I am pretty resilient, and I am lucky enough to be able to bury myself in my work, so I just kept on delivering what I needed to do. Once this jerk and his puppets realized they couldn't break me down, they started persecuting members of my team, and that's when they hit a raw nerve and I decided to take some action. I now regret not acting sooner, knowing that I could have prevented all of the bullying and the awful treatment I received over the past 12 months. Now, blowing the whistle was not easy by any means. I mean, this was next level stressful. My biggest fear was that I wouldn't be able to provide enough evidence, also I could substantiate the allegations I was making, resulting in these corrupt jerks staying in the business and being given free rein to psychologically destroy me on a daily basis. Well, I came forward and provided statements, and as a result, my boss and peers were stood down. The business then engaged an external forensic investigator who was given the authority to approach others to request that they submit statements to support my claims. I chose not to remain anonymous, which was a very difficult decision. However, I wanted these corrupt jerks to know that they could not intimidate me any longer. After a few months, I was informed that the serious misconduct allegations I made were sustained, and my jerk of a boss had been terminated and referred to the State Corruption Commission. And I seriously can't express the relief that I felt. Now, I look in the mirror and know they selected the wrong target. And in the end, all I can say is that revenge is oh so very sweet. Wow, this is a really cool story. Like, this guy not only saw exactly what was going on, but he put up with their garbage for over a year. Like, can you imagine having these kind of coworkers breathing down your neck, all of which know that you know they're doing sketchy stuff at the job you're working at? Like, I can only imagine the crazy lengths they went to just to try and like treat you like garbage, to try and like make you quit. Like, after the first 4 months, that would have like really driven me crazy. But I seriously think it's so cool and very brave of you to step forward and be like, no, enough is enough. I'm not dealing with this for another second. And in my opinion, I think this is a massive lesson that needs to be learned when it comes to like workplace relations. Like, if someone's bullying you at work or treating you so badly that it makes your life a living nightmare, or if you know your colleagues are doing something super sketchy and probably illegal at work, then this story at least shows that it is possible to step forward and say something to the authorities, or even just like report them to HR at the bare minimum. Like, this kind of behavior is not normal for a workplace, because at a normal workplace, you go in, you clock in, you do your job, and then you go home. But the fact that these guys were doing illegal stuff and they tried to get you out the door because they were doing illegal stuff and you knew about it, like, that is super sketchy and really scary. So truly good for the original poster for getting this done, as well as taking down their psychopath boss, who clearly had it out for them. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for calling my workmate unprofessional, all because she's been bringing her puppy to work, because that dog has been disrupting everybody in the office. And now, after I told her that she can't bring the dog back to work, she's calling me the jerk. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 27-year-old male and I'm working towards getting my PhD. So, in addition to some other roles I have at the university, I'm leading several projects with a core team of 7 members. Back in late January, one of the ladies on the team went on maternity leave, and then another left for maternity leave as well in early March. Because of this, our team has been stretched pretty thin. I understand this, so I've been setting less ambitious objectives for our team so that the remaining 5 of us are not overwhelmed. In late February, the newest member of the lab, who we will call Carol for the sake of the story, Carol is not her real name, took in a 5-week-old puppy by the name of Bean. Carol joined the lab back in December, as she needs to research for her master's degree. Before she joined, I had known her for almost 4 years, and here is where the problem really begins. Since getting Bean, Carol has been consistently coming late to meetings, missing her deadlines, and even leaving early. I've been having to take extra time after hours to ensure that she's in the loop. Carol says all of this is because of Bean and how much work he requires, since according to her, he is just a baby. Carol seems to have taken offense with the fact that the two ladies have taken maternity leave while she didn't get time off for her dog. It's a whole thing with her that since she's child-free and all, but I honestly just don't want to get into that. About 2 weeks ago, Carol asked me if she was okay for me to bring Bean to the office, since according to her, he gets upset and fussy when he's alone. Since the school doesn't have a policy forbidding this, and nobody else on the team objected, I allowed it. And trust me when I say this, the dog has been ridiculous here. It constantly barks and whines, has made a mess on the floor more than once, but the worst thing is that it starts to go pee whenever it sees me or other people, and it tries to run over to them while peeing. It has a crate, but it always whines constantly whenever he's in it. And once he's out of the crate, he acts like he's in the Olympics or something, running around in all directions, trying to take the shoes off of my feet, etc. Carol has been doing less work as she spends so much time feeding and cleaning or trying to persuade Bean just to go to sleep. One of the other professors noticed this as well, and he told me to give her a warning about the situation before it got out of hand. Well, I did just that on Tuesday. I told her that keeping Bean in the office was untenable and that she would need to find some kind of alternative. Well, when I said that, she protested, but I insisted, and she seemed very upset with this. On Wednesday, Carol didn't come in since she didn't want to leave Bean alone. Today, she only showed up for a little bit and then she headed out. I didn't bother speaking with her, and just a few hours ago, after work, she called me and said that I was being a jerk for not advocating for her and Bean. I've decided not to escalate this since she is clearly under a lot of stress, but I did tell her that she was being very unprofessional and she needed to pull up her socks before her supervisor got involved. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? Because honestly, I really don't know what to do. No, I do not think you're the jerk at all. I think Carol's being very naive and very short-sighted if she thinks her dog is well-behaved or even like supposed to be in a lab where you do research. Like the dog is going to the bathroom all over the place. It's literally making a mess and causing all this disruption. Like, I don't know about you, but if I was working in that kind of environment, I would be very frustrated. And here's the thing, if the dog was well-behaved and actually did what it was told, then I'm sure this dog would be no problem. It would either sleep in its crate or it would just roam around and probably not bother anybody. But it's the fact that the dog is so unruly and literally just doesn't listen to Chloe or anybody and is overall making a massive mess of everything, that in my opinion is just not a good thing to have around the office. It is a workplace hazard and someone is gonna get hurt because of that dog. So no, you are not the jerk, and I think Chloe is being ridiculous for calling you the jerk. Because if anything, she's just being super selfish, and that is not your fault in the slightest. Am I the jerk for expecting someone to pay half the cost of a parking fine that they literally caused me to get in the first place? Because right now I'm very frustrated and I'm kind of at a loss on what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my friend, who we will call Skylar, had made plans with me to spend the night at his apartment. I'd never been there before, and when I arrived, I noticed that some cars in his building parking lot had parking passes on their windshields. I wasn't sure if I was allowed to park there without one, so I asked Skylar if I needed to move my car to find street parking somewhere. Skylar told me that he's allowed to have a guest park in the spot assigned for his unit, and told me a specific spot to park my car. So I moved my car to the spot he told me was okay to park in, and then I went inside. The next morning, I went out to the parking lot and my car was nowhere to be seen. I went back into Skylar's apartment and I told him that my car had been stolen and we needed to call the police. Skylar's roommate then came in and said that my car was most likely towed because at 10 p.m. or so, they tow any car in the lot without a parking pass. And apparently, Skylar was supposed to talk to someone in his building management to get me a temporary pass, but obviously he didn't do that. I still had to call the police to get the number of the towing service that had my car, but thankfully I did find it and the impound lot wasn't very far away, so I was able to walk there and get my car. I was charged a fine of $186 for illegally parking in the lot and had to pay that much for them to release my car. I did ask them if I could get the fee waived if I had some kind of documentation from the owner of the unit stating that I had permission to park there, but they said it didn't work like that and I still had to pay. So after that, when I updated Skylar on the situation, I asked him to split the cost of the ticket with me and pay $93. Well, Skylar said absolutely not, because it was my car and I was on my own. I said that wasn't fair since it was his fault that I got towed, and that he should actually be paying the full amount, but I was only asking for half because I was trying to be a nice friend. Skylar just repeated that expecting him to pay for my car was ridiculous. Now, I didn't want to argue about it, and I don't think he even had the money to give me anyway, so I decided just to go home. I complained to one of my friends, and she said that Skylar was a jerk for not doing anything to help me get the car back, and it was fine to be mad at him for that. But she said that I was a little over the line expecting him to pay for my car expenses when he doesn't even have a car himself, and that's probably why he didn't know how the parking lot works. Now, I don't get this logic. I still feel like Skylar owes me $93, and I really think he's a jerk for not paying me. So honestly, am I in the wrong here? Because at this point, I'm very frustrated and I seriously don't know what to do. No, I don't think you're in the wrong at all, and I think Skylar is absolutely on the hook for not helping you out in this scenario. He literally told you to park in the parking lot and didn't know the details about how you could get towed. Like, how is that your fault? Yes, it is your car, but Skylar is the one who's like, yeah, you can park down there, it's all good. Like, you wouldn't have gotten towed if he just knew what he was talking about. So I don't blame you for being upset with him and being like, wait a second, this is kind of your fault as well. So no, you are definitely not the jerk. Skylar's an idiot for making you park there, and in my opinion, in the future, if you do decide to hang out with him, I would be slightly cautious about him helping you out with literally anything, because the way he acted is super inconsiderate, and in my opinion, I don't think that's fair in the slightest. I feel like my boss is screwing me over by essentially making me give up my weekends off, as well as making me work well over 40 hours every single week. And now I'm seriously so frustrated and I just don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I'm a 24-year-old female, and I've been working a basic retail job for about 8 months now. This store that I work at is a larger department store like Walmart or Target, and our store in particular is a complete disaster. Like surprise visits from corporate at least once a week kind of disaster. All of our leading managers are being investigated for various things, and the general public has nothing but complaints about us. Anyways, I work in a lot of different departments since starting, so I'm trained as a cashier, customer service, general merchandise, and a few other things that I can't really mention without outing which company I work for. I go through a lot of employees really quickly. Since I was hired, I've seen more than half of my coworkers completely change at least 3 times. So working there for 8 months is considered a long time. When I first got hired, I made it very clear that I was not available to work weekends due to family obligations. But I work really hard, and I do most of the stuff myself. All the daily tasks are done by me, the cleaning and maintenance is done by me. All my coworkers have questions that they would usually have to ask the manager about, but I'm the one that they ask instead. I'm constantly just destroying myself figuratively for this job every day. I work 40+ hours a week and I get 1 day off, which I usually get asked to come in for work anyways. Last month, my manager came to me asking if I wanted to give up my weekends off so that I could work in another department. Basically, I'd be checking the store safe to count the money every weekend and make sure we have money set aside to refill the registers the next morning. They would train me on how to do this, and it would all come with a pay raise. A week later, that same manager told me that they were going to hold off a few weeks with the training until one of our coworkers was done with their vacation. Now, a month has passed, and I still have not been trained or gotten a pay increase, despite the fact that I'm now working weekends anyways, which I only agreed to for the pay increase and the new position. Not only that, but I haven't had a day off in 2 weeks because of this scheduling. Anyways, while working at the customer service desk yesterday, my manager asked me if I wanted to also work another department in the store. That would mean that I've agreed to work in 7 different departments and only currently working in 5. I agreed, but asked about the other previously mentioned position, and she said that she would figure out what was going on. Well, that same day, I found out that one of my coworkers, who is a seasonal part-time employee, was randomly scheduled for training working the position I was promised. Now, I'm not upset at her because she had no idea about it, and they didn't even ask or warn her about it, but I seriously feel very betrayed since I'm working extra for less days off and with no pay increase. I just don't know if I'm justified in being pissed off or not because of my time working here being less than a year. I'm honestly at such a loss, and I seriously don't know what to do. Yeah, what you're describing is very unfair, and this is not okay. Your manager promised you that you would get a pay increase and a new job in this store, which by the way, you're doing way too much, and there's no way I would ever stick with this job. But like, they promised a pay increase and a new position, and not only have they not given any of that to you in exchange for your weekends, but now now you no longer have a day off, and they're giving that position you were promised to somebody else. Like, what's the deal with that? That is not okay. That's also not your responsibility to try and figure out. So I know if I was in your shoes, I would tell them, hey, since you're not giving me a pay increase or this new position, I am no longer available on the weekends. Like, I would put my foot down immediately and say, I'm sorry, but this is not working for me. Because you should not be forced to do all this work for such little pay. You absolutely should be compensated for your time, especially if you've seen all these other coworkers turn over so quickly. Like, 8 months is not that long for working somewhere, and for your entire team to turn over 3 times, like, that is an insane turnover rate, and based on the way the managers are acting, I kind of see why. Like, these people don't know what they're doing. It seems like one person is organizing one thing, and then everything else just gets switched around behind the scenes. So truly, it really seems like they're overbooking and overscheduling you, and they're taking advantage of your willingness to work and help them out. And in my opinion, I think in the future, it would be very important to say, you know what, I would be happy to take on these additional duties, but I need to see a pay increase to match what I'm doing on a weekly basis. Because according to what you're describing right now, it seems like you're doing way too much. And in my opinion, that is absolutely unfair. Am I the jerk for being disrespectful to my parents after I rejected them when they tried to ground me despite the fact that I'm a grown adult? Because right now, I'm in the process of moving out. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I live at home while going to university. I'm in my final year and I have a job lined up after I graduate. My parents have been charging me rent since I was 16 years old. I have a small company that makes about $60,000 a year, and I started this back in high school. It is one of the reasons I graduated early from high school and why I got attention from recruiters. My parents said that since I was earning adult money, I could take in adult responsibilities. And you know what? I thought that was fair. So I paid for all my own stuff starting at the age of 16. Not university, I got a scholarship for that. And the rent they charged me was really minor. It was maybe $300 a month. But after that, I basically considered my room to be completely mine. I kept it tidy because I like it that way. But they had no say when I cleaned it up. I would do my own laundry, but not at a time that would disturb other members of the family. And I also bought food for myself and ate when I wanted. They tried to say I was separating myself from the family, but I saw it more as having my own schedule. This year for spring break, I went down to Mexico with my friends. My parents are upset because they were hosting a big Easter family get-together. When I got back, they said I was behaving badly by not being around for a family gathering. I said it was my last spring break in university and that I was not responsible for their schedule. They said I was grounded, and I laughed and said, okay, good luck with that. I went to my room and I locked the door. They tried banging on it for my attention, but I was just completely done. My grandfather came over to talk to me later, and for a bit of context, he is the only one who helped me get my company started, and he has always been there for me. He said that I was rude to my parents when they were trying to be there for me, and I asked him how much rent he charged my mom when she lived at home. He said it was ridiculous to think that he would charge his kids rent, and I told them that I've been paying rent for 4 years. Well, after I said that, he went into the house and I heard fighting. When he came out, he said that I need to treat my parents with more respect, but that since they are my landlords, they do not have a say over how I spend my time. I'm avoiding my parents for now, and I'm renting an Airbnb right now until I graduate. I took everything that was important to me and I left $600 for the last 2 months I planned on being there. At the moment, they keep calling me, but I am currently getting ready to move for my new job. And you know what? I simply don't have the energy to deal with them right now. So seriously, was I the jerk or even just disrespectful to my parents? Because at this point, I am so completely done with them and I seriously don't know what to do. No, you are definitely not the jerk. For reference, the original poster has to be in their 20s, and they clearly have their life figured out in a major way. They have their own business, they're going to college, and they literally are paying for rent in their parents' house. So for these parents to really go to the original poster and actually try to ground a grown adult, that in my opinion is hilarious, and there's just no good excuse for that. Like, technically they have absolutely no say over what you can and can't do, and they literally do not control your time any longer. You are an adult and you can make your own decisions. So if you want to go to Mexico for spring break, then absolutely go to Mexico. And honestly, I think it's a good idea that you're finally moving out, and that you gave them the $600 necessary for the last 2 months you planned on staying there. That way you can guarantee that you keep them completely out of your hair, and they have no excuse to try and fight you on anything. Because from the sounds of it, it really seems like your parents are very controlling. I mean, why else would they start charging you $300 a month at the age of 16? It almost seems like they're trying to punish you you for being a high achiever, all because you graduated early and have your own business. Like, that's not a bad thing, and I can't imagine them being like, oh, you want to have adult responsibilities? Congratulations, it's time to pay rent. Like, no, why would you do that to your own kid? That's just like really weird to me. So no, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think your parents were completely out of line trying to boss you around like that, and honestly, with all things considered, I don't blame you for moving out in the slightest. My entitled mother is demanding that I pay off all of her debt after she got into a multi-level marketing scheme last year. She even goes as far as calling me selfish and evil for not being willing to pay her the thousands of dollars that she's in debt with this company. And now she's taken things a step further, as she is now saying that if I don't pay off her debt, she's going to exile me from the entire family. And right now, I feel so very hurt, and I simply do not know what to do. Here's what happened. So my mother got herself into a multi-level marketing scheme last year, despite my brother and I warning her against it. She quit her job because the multi-level marketing scheme people told her that this was her chance to become an entrepreneur and independent. My dad is supporting her financially now, as well as my 4 younger siblings. She pretty much gave up on the oils after selling them to everybody that she knows. She still has a lot more left to sell, but now she wants to do something else because she doesn't feel like she's her own boss under this company. She overestimated how many people want to buy her product, and now she is thousands of dollars in debt. She won't get a job, and my dad can't afford to pay it off without selling the house and his car. My brother has 3 kids in private school, so he doesn't have much money to spare, and I'm on maternity leave, and the amount she needs will wipe out my savings, and I'd have to use my husband's money as well to cover this debt, which I just don't think is fair, especially since she doesn't want to get a job after this debt is cleared, because she is some entrepreneur at heart, and according to her, working for someone else's company is soul crushing. She wants to open a food truck even though they aren't popular in the town that she lives in, and always go out of business sooner or later. My mom is a bad cook, but she's competing with professional chefs, and I'm sure she'll give up as soon as it gets hard. My dad says he plans to sell the house and his car and move his tenants out of the apartment that he owns. My mom called me crying because she loves her neighborhood and has lived here for 35 years. She says that I'm selfish and evil for not paying her debt because she'll pay me back when she expands her food truck business. She doesn't understand why I don't just use my husband's money, since according to her, he won't notice that it's gone. My mom has threatened to not allow me to see my younger siblings, who I am very close with too, by the way, and she's basically said she's gonna have me exiled by our entire family. So this leads to my question: would I be the jerk if I refused to clear this debt even though I could, all because my mom is threatening me? Because at this point, I am very frustrated, and right about now, I seriously don't know what to do. No, you are not the jerk. There is so many sketchy things going on here, it is not even funny. First of all, I think you need to understand that no, this is not your problem. Like, you and your brother basically said, hey, this is a scheme, you really should not get into this. Like, you guys tried to get through to her. You tried to explain to her exactly why this is a bad idea, but she still decided, ooh, I want to be an entrepreneur and I want to be independent. But with these multi-level marketing schemes, that is just literally never possible, because these schemes only deplete your bank account, and it leaves you with all this crappy product in your garage that just sits there and rots and collects dust. So in that regard, it's her own fault for being thousands of dollars in debt. Not to mention the fact that she's unwilling to get a job just to get rid of this debt. Like, seriously, what is she thinking? That is so insane to me. Instead of badgering your children and being like, oh, I'm gonna exile you from the family, or even being like, yeah, you're never gonna see your younger siblings again, why not just get a job and figure this out as you go along? Like, even your dad is like, yeah, I gotta sell everything because she won't get a job and figure this out. Like, all of this is literally her own fault, and yet she still comes to you and calls you selfish and evil for not paying off her debt. But it's like, I'm sorry, I didn't put you in this mess. I tried to warn you about this mess and you still ignored me. So in my opinion, the fact that she's giving you an ultimatum of her basically saying, oh, pay for my debt or you're out of the family, like, that seriously is more than enough for me to walk away and be like, no, I am not getting involved in this. Because that is not only an awful thing to say to a family member of all people, but also it shows completely how awful your mom actually is. Because this entire scenario is literally her own fault. And in my opinion, I don't think you should have to sacrifice thousands of dollars just to try and save her from her own self-inflicted debt. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for agreeing to split the bill on a double date, which is starting to lead to my best friend's relationship falling apart? apart. Because right now she is blaming me for things going south. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I'm a 22-year-old female and I'm really unsure of what to do right now. My best friend and roommate, who we will call Amy, that's not her real name, had been seeing a guy for about 2 months. She really likes him and it seemed like it was going super well. Last night, she asked if I'd go along with a blind double date, meaning that she would go with this guy that she's dating and I would go with one of his friends who is also single and looking for a relationship. Now, I wasn't keen at first, but she insisted, so I agreed. We got to the restaurant, which is just a nice place in our area, and things seemed to be going fine. The friend she was setting me up with was really cool, but I'm not looking right now and I didn't really feel any kind of spark. We get to the end of the dinner and the bill comes around. Amy chimes in and says, "Don't worry, our men have got this." To which I say back, "Oh no, I don't mind." We had had 2 cocktails each, and it wasn't a crazy expensive place, but also not very cheap. Now, much to my surprise, a bit of a back and forth started to happen. Amy kept insisting it was always the gentlemen who pay. So I said something like, "Well, you can do you, but I'm happy to split the bill." The guys were saying that they would cover, but both seemed very uncomfortable. They paid and then we left, and Amy and her boyfriend went back to his place, and I said goodnight to his friend and went home alone. Later on, Amy texted me saying her man is now contemplating the relationship because he doesn't want someone who always insists that the men pay. She told me that I ruined it by offering to split, and I should have just sided with her and not made things worse. She's now saying he needs time and might not want to continue the relationship with her at all. So honestly, am I the jerk for possibly breaking them up? Because right now, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, first of all, I don't think you're the jerk at all, because I don't think you did anything wrong. I've been on enough double dates to know that it's not that out of the ordinary to split the bill amongst everybody there. So the fact that your friend Amy decided to make a big deal out of this and really try to hammer home the point that the guys are gonna pay for it, it's gonna be them, that's just super weird, and it really is kind of cringy behavior in my opinion. And it really seemed like it was a hill that she was willing to die on. And also, why is Amy coming at you as if you did something? Last I checked with the conversation, you didn't really do anything wrong. All you said was, "Hey, I'm gonna pay for my stuff." And now she's trying to make it sound like you broke up her relationship. You didn't do anything wrong. And why should you have to side with her automatically? Her thought process of "Oh yeah, the men will pay," in my opinion, isn't this golden rule that everybody abides by, but rather it's just her own opinion, or she just didn't want to pay, which I think might be what's going on here. So no, I don't think you're the jerk. I really don't think you did anything wrong. And if your friend's relationship is falling apart because of this, of all things, then in my opinion, it probably was not going to last that long in the first place. Am I the jerk for refusing to make pizzas for everyone at my sister's graduation party, all because they told me literally at the last minute that they wanted me to do that? Because right now, I'm being called lazy by my family, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 20-year-old male and I went to a culinary school and have been working in professional kitchens since I was 18 years old. Even though I'm an adult, since I'm the youngest child in my family and one of the youngest relatives in general, a lot of the times it's difficult for me to get my relatives to take me seriously or keep me in the loop about anything. I attended my sister's graduation earlier today, and right after, I carpooled home with my mom. It isn't until while we were in the car driving to my mom's house for the graduation party that I was told that I was supposed to make pizza for everyone at the party. Now, I've made pizza for my family before, not because anybody asked me to do it, but instead it was purely because I wanted to. The thing that is frustrating me more than anything is that multiple people knew about this ahead of time, but they decided to tell the person who's actually responsible for making them at the very last minute. On top of that, my family is massive. There is most likely going to end up being about 14 or 15 people at this party. Now, if you're not that into cooking, you might not understand how much of a grueling process making pizza from scratch truly is. Between making the dough, the sauce, and actually cooking them, it is a process I need to be ready for literally multiple days ahead of time, just so I can have everything ready and set. Well, I told them that I was sick of being kept out of the loop and not being treated like an adult by everyone in my family, and yet everyone still relies on me constantly cooking for everyone every single time there's a family event. I told them that I will not be making pizza today, and if anyone wants anything from me, I won't do it unless I'm completely kept in the loop of what's going on, and I want to be told about things multiple days ahead of time. Now, to be honest, I feel bad for my sister because she was very excited to try my homemade pizza, but I had to explain to her why it wasn't going to happen, and I told her I can make her one later in the week as a graduation present. My parents think that I'm just being petty and just not making them because I'm being lazy. So I need to know, am I the jerk for not making the stupid pizzas? Because I seriously do not think think that I did anything wrong. No, you are definitely not the jerk. Your family are the jerks here. Like, seriously, what's going on? They waited until you were in the car on the way to the graduation party to be like, oh, by the way, you're gonna be stuck in the kitchen making food for all of us. Like, I'm right there with the original poster. If I'm gonna be doing something that intensive, I really wanna know about it ahead of time. I don't wanna find out on the fly suddenly while I'm there at the party, and definitely not while I'm on the way to the party itself. Like, I would wanna mentally and physically prepare to get this done. And here's my assumption, to be completely honest. I really think the original poster would have done this for their family if they were at least told about it sooner than the last minute. Like, that is seriously so obnoxious and it is so unfair. So no, you are definitely not the jerk, because if I was in your shoes, I really think I would do the same thing. And the fact that they want to call you lazy and try to shift blame over to you, in my opinion, completely shows how out of touch they truly are. My wife walked out on me and my daughter 2 years ago, and now out of nowhere has suddenly returned and wants to be a family again. But after raising my daughter by myself for 2 years, as well as taking on the responsibility of being a single father, I told her plainly that I'm considering divorce, because right now I feel very hurt and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so 2 years ago, my wife pulled the classic, I'm gonna go buy some smokes, and then just disappeared. She suffered from depression, and I did my best to take the load off of her and help her get the help that she needed. She would keep saying how she was sick of everything, even our daughter, and again, I would give her space and try to accommodate her every request. Then she just up and disappeared. She took some of her stuff and she was just gone. I had gone to pick up our daughter at school after work, and after we came home, she was gone. The police was involved, but after 3 days, she called her mother saying she was fine, but wished for us to not look for her or to contact her. And trust me, when this happened, it was really hard. Working, raising our daughter as a single father, trying to explain to her why mom was gone, and not knowing what to say when she asked if mommy would ever be back. At the same time, I appreciated the strong bond I built with my daughter, and that really helped a lot. I never looked into filing for divorce, but around last summer, I met a woman that we will call Jane. Jane is not her real name. And we started on an on and off again relationship. She knows all about my situation, and although we are currently on break, she is still a big help and has an established rapport with my daughter as an aunt figure. Now, I was thinking about getting the ball rolling on divorce, that is, until about 2 weeks ago when my wife returned. She was completely apologetic, but she also seemed to have become a new person entirely. She was upbeat, she was pro-positive, and almost had a glow about herself. She popped back in by basically saying, hey guys, what did I miss? And after our initial shock, my daughter and I became indifferent. In the last days, my daughter has warmed up to her, but I didn't. She tried to be close to me after about 2 nights, but I told her I was not comfortable about it, and I asked her to move into the guest room, which she did, saying that she completely understands. I then asked her where she's been these last few years, and she pretty much said that she toured the world and that she had found herself. I told her pretty bluntly that I was looking for divorce and that there's already someone else. She said she completely understands if I hate her now, which I don't, but maybe I can give her a chance to make it up to us. So right now I am torn. I still have feelings for her and I'm glad my daughter got her mother back, but how can I trust her to not just walk out on us? What am I supposed to do with Jane? Am I just gonna say thanks for everything but my wife is back, see you later? I'm honestly at such a loss, and at this point I don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, first and foremost, I think it is absolutely toxic the way your wife is acting. You mean to tell me she took a 2-year vacation away from you and your daughter just so she could find herself and then pop back into the family? Like, there's no good excuse for that. Like, she literally abandoned the family and then tries to come back and act like nothing's wrong. Like, what is happening right now? This is so bizarre to me. In my opinion, if she really thinks she can walk into your life again and try to pretend like nothing's wrong and nothing changed and everything's fine, then she's completely insane. Not to mention the fact that she's like, oh, I found myself. I spent these last few years to tour the world. Like, what are you talking about? You walked out on your husband and your daughter, literally leaving your husband to raise their kid by themselves. Like, that is so incredibly toxic and so disgusting to do to someone. So with all things considered, I don't blame you for being upset, because from the sounds of it, she is definitely a flight risk. And in my opinion, there's absolutely nothing saying that she won't try to do this once again. Am I the jerk for refusing to pay for half of my ex-girlfriend's flight that she can't use, all because we broke up? Because right now she's calling me a jerk, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my girlfriend and I broke up about 2 weeks ago. It was more her call than mine, but we both knew that things weren't going well for a while. So I was sad, but honestly not surprised. apologized. We ended things amicably and said we'd still be friends. Anyways, we did the exchange of things in each other's apartments a couple of days after the breakup, and then we didn't really talk again until about 2 days ago when she texted me. We had been planning to go on a trip to the Canary Islands this year, and the plane tickets were about $800 a piece, and the Airbnb was about $1,600. So we decided I'd just pay for the Airbnb and she would pay for the flights. Now, the flights were non-refundable, and we were already past the date that I'd get any kind of meaningful refund from the Airbnb. So I decided I'd just get a friend to split the Airbnb and go anyways. I had been planning on telling my ex that I'd pay her for my ticket so that she didn't lose the money, but she texted me about it first. On Friday, she offered to pay me for the Airbnb minus the cost of my plane ticket because she was still interested in going with a friend. So I told her that I was actually planning on going with a friend too, but I was going to pay her for my ticket and still go. She said okay, but I actually needed to pay her for my ticket and half of the cost of hers because she can't use it now. Basically, she says that she agreed to buy 2 plane tickets under the understanding that we would both go on the trip, and I agreed to pay for the Airbnb under the same understanding, but since that's not happening, we should both evenly share the cost. Since I'm still using the room and my ticket, the only lost cost is her $800 ticket, and we should each bear $400 of that. Well, I told her that I didn't think that's fair at all. First of all, it was her idea to break up, so the reason we aren't going is all on her, and secondly, there's no reason why she can't use her ticket. She should just get an Airbnb and still go with her friend. I even said I'd sit in her friend's seat and let her friend sit in my seat so they can sit together. Whether or not she uses her ticket is on her, and she bears any cost of that. Well, she said she didn't want to go at the same time as me, and also the good Airbnbs are taken for that time. Anyways, we went back and forth, and she even threatened to cancel the tickets, even though she can't get any of the money back. So I said to her, you know what, go ahead and cancel them. Get whatever refund you can, I'll just buy my own ticket and not pay you back anything. She then said to me, I'm not gonna talk to you if you're gonna be a jerk. Let's talk about this later when you could be mature. And that's honestly where it is right now. My friends are divided, and most say I should at least pay her for my ticket, which I am willing to do if she doesn't cancel it. But some say I should pay for her half as well. But I'm sticking firm that I won't be paying for her half of the ticket. So honestly, am I the jerk here? What should I do? Okay, honestly, I don't understand any reasoning why you would pay for her half of the ticket. Like, it literally just doesn't make any sense. It seems like she's trying to get out of paying for her part of it, and honestly, that is not your problem. Like, she's being unreasonable, and it's just really annoying. So no, I don't think you're the jerk for refusing to pay what she's asking for, because it literally just doesn't make any sense. And if she's honestly unhappy with this scenario, then I think she needs to be a little bit more reasonable. Am I the jerk for not wanting my family to come to my graduation, all because they skipped out on my brother's graduation? Because right now, I feel it would be very unfair for them to show up, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my brother graduated last year. His graduation date got moved 3 days earlier than what it was originally supposed to be, and it resulted in none of our family members on my dad or my mom's side attending the ceremony, besides me and our dad. Our brothers went to their friend's wedding, our aunts and uncles went to work, and our cousins just didn't come or couldn't come. But he was really hurt by this. Everyone who didn't come along, by the way, tried to act like this wasn't necessarily a big deal to him and told him that they were sorry that they had to miss it, but kinda dismissed it as having other plans and other stuff going on. Well, he just kind of accepted it to their face. But since I'm graduating, now he's starting to get upset again. I graduate in 5 weeks, and on Thursday, me, my brother, and my dad were all in the living room, and my dad was talking about how the whole family couldn't wait to see me walk across that stage, and they just kept blabbering on and on. My brother didn't really say anything, but instead he just kept looking at his phone, but I could see his facial expression had changed. I felt bad for him again, and told my dad that I would rather the family just come to my graduation dinner afterwards instead, and just for him and my brother to come along. Now, my dad asked me why, and told me that the family was looking forward to seeing me graduate, but I told him that I understand that, but I just didn't want them to be there. He kept pressuring me on a better reason, but I didn't really want to say it in front of my brother because I didn't want to make him upset, so I just told him that I just didn't want them there. Later that night, I tried to talk to my dad alone, and I tried to explain that since the family didn't come to my brother's graduation, that I don't want them at my graduation because then I would feel guilty, and I don't want to feel guilty when I graduate. Now, I thought he would finally understand, but he just didn't. He told me that they didn't choose to move the graduation date, and I explained to him that I understand, but it still doesn't mean that I have to want them there. He didn't like this and basically told my brother about it too, and my dad kept trying to convince me to change my mind, but I don't think I should have to. I'm even thinking about sending a text in the group chat to let everyone know sometime tomorrow. And with that, I really need to know, would I be the jerk for doing this? Because right now, I'm seriously unsure of what to do. Honestly, first and foremost, I think it's really kind that you're standing up for your brother, and you're basically saying, look, the fact that he got neglected is not okay, and if these people want to neglect my brother and deny him the chance to celebrate his graduation, all with phony excuses by the way, then they don't deserve to come to your graduation. And I think that notion is very noble and it's very kind of you. So I don't think you would be the jerk for saying, you know what, just come to the after party. I don't want them at the graduation and I would rather they just not show up at all. Like, that really is a sweet gesture, and I think your brother would probably like that if you explained it to him in detail. So while I think the idea is a good idea to a certain extent, I think it would still be a good idea to talk with your brother and try to get a gauge for how he feels about the situation, and especially to figure out if he would even want you to do that in the first place, because there is a chance he won't really care or want you to do that, and he might have just moved on already at this point in his life. But regardless, I think this is a very kind gesture, and I wouldn't blame you in the slightest if you did decide to do that. An entitled Karen messes with the wrong person on the wrong day, as she decides to call me selfish all because I took a spot at a table in a coffee shop. But I decided that I was not going to take that sitting down, so I followed her out of the coffee shop as she left, and I gave her the exact same energy she gave me, eventually putting this entitled Karen right back in her place. And I've honestly never felt better about getting back at someone in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened back in November. Out of the blue, my healthy, hardworking 41-year-old husband had a stroke. We were just chatting one night, and then suddenly our lives changed in the blink of an eye. An ambulance was called, and we spent a horrific night wondering whether my husband was coming home again. He was put on the stroke ward, and for the first 2 days, I was back and forward to the hospital constantly. It is not close to my house, so when I was unable to be there due to visiting hours, or even him having some kind of test, I would go to a coffee shop not far from the hospital, but much closer to my house. I also chose that place as I know the staff. I work for myself, so I would take my laptop or my book and just kill some time until I could go back to the hospital, and the longest I was ever there was maybe an hour and a half. Well, enter the entitled Karen of the story and her browbeaten husband. I was trying to answer some emails and was letting people know what had happened when I heard it. She said to me, "You are so selfish sitting there when other people are in the queue." I look up, not sure who she's talking to, but apparently it was me. Now, I know that people table hogging is annoying, but for starters, there were quite a few empty tables around me, and secondly, there were people who had been there before I even got there. Now, she didn't wait for me to reply, and instead she just huffed her way out the door, muttering about how I was selfish and she had seen me there yesterday. Now, I don't think she expected me to follow her, but that's exactly what I did. I was tired, I was worried about my husband, and I was very mad that she didn't have the guts to say it to my face and stick around. She picked the wrong time and the wrong woman to mess with. I asked her to repeat what she said to my face, and I said to her, yes, I was sitting on my laptop, but the staff knew I was there waiting to go back to the hospital as my husband just had a stroke, and this coffee shop is close to the hospital for me in case there's an emergency, and I still need to work, so I'm doing what I needed to do. And on top of that, maybe you should just mind your own business, or at least have the common decency to say it to my face. And in hindsight, I maybe should have not called her a geriatric old cow bag, but that's exactly what I did. She then responded by screaming at me and saying, "I'm only 53. But I responded by saying, "Yikes, you're only a little bit older than me. Man, you must have had a hard life. Sorry about that." When I said that, she stormed off and went back to the coffee shop, and my friend told me that she was a pain in the neck for harassing some of the students who came to work there, and she always got a takeaway coffee. But despite it all, I was one of the first people to stand up to her, and I think her big mistake was thinking that I would take it. But she definitely messed up, as one of the benefits of being a part of Gen X is that we just don't care anymore, and she definitely should have known better. Now, I do feel bad about commenting on how she looked, as I believe we all age gracefully, but in my opinion, she absolutely deserved everything else. Seriously, what is wrong with people? How can you possibly go into a coffee shop, see some random woman sitting by a table on her laptop, and think to yourself, yes, this is my chance to tell her off? Like, the original poster literally did nothing to this entitled Karen, but the entitled Karen still went out of her way to make a big scene and like try and take a shot at her. Like, that's so rude and completely, quite literally uncalled for. Like, you're just sitting there answering your emails. You didn't do anything to her. But also, it is incredible to me that the original poster is like, oh, you want to start stuff? Cool, let's start this bonfire. And then they literally follow them out out of the coffee shop. Like, that is crazy to me. I definitely don't think I would have the guts to do that personally, and I would just chalk that up as some weirdo who clearly is having a bad day. But no, the original poster was not having any of that. Their husband had a stroke, they're stressed out, they've got work, they gotta make it to the hospital. Like, seriously, they're at their wits' end. And it's so funny because this entitled Karen got the same energy back that she gave, and then suddenly she turns all red in the face and can't handle it anymore. Well, if that's the case, then don't start the fire in the first place. This is all hilarious to me because it was completely avoidable, and all this stupid Karen had to do was get her coffee and leave the store. But instead, she decided to pick a fight with the wrong person, and in my opinion, she got exactly what she deserved. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My mother keeps falling for different scams over and over again, costing her thousands of dollars from her bank account and her retirement fund, and I'm honestly just so sick of it. So after this last incident where she gave away her bank information, I have officially given up and have chosen to step away from my mom and refuse to involve myself in fixing her problems ever again. And for the first time, I honestly feel at peace with my decision. Here's what happened. Okay, so for a bit of background, my 68-year-old mother is losing her mind, and she has been for a while now. We knew she had been conversing with several people online for over a year, most of which claimed to be famous men, and all of which needed money for various things. We had been telling her since December that she was being scammed, tried involving DHR and the agency who helps protect seniors, but all of it fell on deaf ears. Courts won't do anything without medical diagnosis, neurologist appointments take months, so we're just stuck trying to keep her from self-destructing until then. At the end of February, she finally admits that she needs help. Actually, she called my brother and said that she was broke and needed to fix it, but we're just gonna say that she was asking for help. Per the bank, her home was a few hours from going into foreclosure on the day that we got the call from her, and her utilities were being turned off the very next week. She was over $100,000 in credit card debt, most of it from sending these men pictures of every single credit card she has. She also gave them all her bank account information and sent at least $30,000 in cash via Bitcoin ATMs or prepaid gift cards. I'm not sure I'll ever know the exact amount that she has spent on them, but I do know that she owes about $7,000 in taxes this year from all the withdrawals that she made from her retirement, which she freely admits she sent to those men. She also still swears every one of them are actually all the celebrities they claim to be, and still truly believes one of them is the love of her life. My brother and I told her the only way we would help her is if she gave us power of attorney, which she thankfully did. We then caught up her house payments and reconnected the utilities. I have been going through her bills as I pay all of them and trying to help her budget, including finding her cheaper internet, TV, and cell phone plans, so she'll be able to pay her own bills going forward on her fixed income. She has been beyond nasty to me every step of the way, telling me what a disappointment I am and that she wishes I was never born. There have been some terrible remarks about possible self-harm, if you know what I mean, to which she laughed in my face and told the police she would never do anything that dramatic. She calls me almost daily and tells me that she fell over, only for myself or the ambulance to rush over and have her admit that she wasn't actually hurt, but was hoping a trip to the ER would get her pain meds. I took her phone, created a new Apple ID, and had it set so that she couldn't call or text anyone not saved in her contacts, and she can't add people or numbers or applications without my approval. It was the only thing short of changing her number that I could do to stop her contacting all these scammers. I mean, she adamantly refused to change the number because she's had that one for over 30 years, but she has still been getting hundreds of text messages from 6-digit numbers, and I'm guessing because she responded to them in the past, so they were able to get around the block. I have told her 1,000 times to not even open them. She needs to delete them or just send them to junk. Fast forward, and she had a hip replacement surgery this past week. While in the hospital, she received a text telling her that she won a free oxygen machine and that she needed to call this number to claim her prize. She texts me and tells me that she needs to add this number to her phone because it's a home health medical equipment company and she wants to talk to them about life alerts, so I add their number. She calls and they tell her that she just needs to give them her bank account information to cover shipping. And of course, she just gives it to them. Then she calls me to brag about her winnings. I call the same number and what do you know? I'm also an instant winner if I give them my bank account information. I press the number 0 to speak with a person and now I've won a free year of DirecTV. I hit 0 again and now I've won a free year of pest control from Terminex if I just give them my bank account information. So it's a total scam that my mother has fallen for while while laying in her hospital bed recovering from surgery. It's almost like the last 2 months didn't happen. Like she has learned nothing from this whole experience. She doesn't even need an oxygen machine, but decided that since her parents had breathing issues at the end of their lives, and because it was free, this opportunity was too good to pass up in case she needs one later. She tells me to just call them back and cancel, but I'm sure the kind phone scammers will totally forget your bank account if you just ask them nicely. Beyond a shadow of a doubt, she has been showing signs of progressive dementia and is at a moderate to moderately severe cognitive decline on all the staging models. So I get it, this is the new normal for her. She no longer possesses the mental capacity to understand real from fake, and she will continue to fall for stuff like this as long as she's alive. And I just can't do anything to stop it. I can just crawl along behind her and try to fix it, while hoping she shows up to the neurologist in May so that I can get the courts to intervene. She will always be in danger of herself and her own well-being, with the added bonus of being awful to me every step of the way. So I have to decide, am I done trying to save her from herself? I'm opening another new bank account for her tomorrow, and I'm putting what little money she still has in it. I have turned off all the automatic payments that have been coming out of my account, and I will be turning off all the parental controls I had established on her electronics. Then I'm telling her good luck. Don't call me when you're on fire again, and then I'm blocking her on my phone. My brother and I believe she'll be in a mess again by the 4th of July, but you know what? That is her problem and not ours. I have had a heart issue for 2 years now. It's an inappropriate sinus tachycardia that isn't responding to medications. Both of my cardiologists have told me that stress is exacerbating my condition. I've lost 25 pounds over the last 3 months, which I'm also chalking up to stress. I literally cannot explain the peace I feel in my soul tonight, knowing that I have done everything I could for this woman, and now I get to just be done tomorrow. It's complicated and sad and frustrating because oh, how I have tried to help her, and I know how this will end, but it's also so very calming to know that I am done. I am completely free of this situation. First of all, I want to say this is really sad, both with your heart condition and also what's happened to your mom. Like, it really is not only incredibly frustrating to be treated the way you're being treated, but also to watch your own mother fall apart at the seams like this. Like, it really does seem like your mom is falling apart mentally, and that really is not fair. But more importantly, it's not fair for you and your brother to try and fix this every step of the way. I mean, she is literally in the hospital recovering from a hip replacement, and here she is once again falling for another scam. Like, that overall is really sad. So in my opinion, it completely makes sense as to why you're taking a step away, and I know if I was in your shoes, I probably would have done the exact same thing. I'm under the assumption that my entitled friend is expecting me to treat her for her birthday, but after she did absolutely nothing for my birthday, I'm kind of at a point where I don't even want to show up for her stupid birthday party, and at this point, I kind of don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, for a bit of background, I went out with my friends for my birthday back in February. My one friend bought me lunch, 3 beautiful gifts that mean so much to me, and even a beautiful birthday cake. I was so surprised and I really felt so special. She even posted a lovely Instagram story about me, and it was really the sweetest, most meaningful thing ever. As for my other friend, she attended my birthday celebration with me and my other friend. We all met up for dinner, and my other friend didn't get me a gift. She didn't help pay for the cake or for the dinner. Now, I'm not looking for anything, and I'm sure that I sound very selfish, but the thing is, my friend is always spending so much money on her boyfriend. Like, she dropped $2,500 on his Christmas and birthday gift. And it's like, no, I'm not looking for anything like that. But my friend goes from spending so much money on her boyfriend to getting herself in financial problems and constantly getting her card declined. I'm so confused by her financial situation. And to be honest, I'm pretty hurt that she didn't even get me a gift. I'm not looking for anything crazy, but just like a token of appreciation would be nice. So here's the thing. My friend's birthday is in June, and she is already beginning to plan for her birthday. It seems the generous friend, the one that gave me such a lovely gift and a cake, won't be coming along because she just started a new job. So it would be me, my friend's brother, and possibly her toxic boyfriend. My friend is already talking about going out for her birthday dinner. She's already making plans and suggesting that we have to go out for her birthday, and she's very excited and deep in the weeds in making these plans. But I don't know how to tell her that I'm not covering her half, or if she even expects me to cover her for her birthday. For my birthday, I really was not looking for anything expensive, but I wish she at least got me a card or some kind of gift for like under $10. I know she has money since she buys everything for her boyfriend, and she's always spending money on anything and everything for him. And since my friend is not coming to the birthday, I really just don't know what to do, as it really feels like all of this is falling on me. Should I try to find a way of getting out of this birthday party party, or should I just go and not pay for her? This is all so awkward, and I'm honestly so confused on what to do next. Yeah, I can understand why this is like a tricky situation, because you're literally going to a friend's birthday party who has never acted like a friend towards you in the slightest. And I'm right there with you. If you're going to be showing up to my birthday party, I'm not expecting literally anything. It could be an Amazon digital gift card for all I care. But like, at least show up with something for the party. Like, that's what the celebration is for, isn't it? Like, it doesn't make any sense why she showed up and didn't be like, hey, I just got you an Amazon gift card, happy birthday, or something along those lines. Like, that really would have been easy. So with that in mind, I don't blame you for not wanting to go to this birthday. So you definitely could go and get her like something really cheap, like a gift card or some kind of card with like 10 bucks in it, or something where it's like, hey, I'm giving you the same energy you gave me, and then you just leave it at that. And I definitely think you're on the right track of saying, no, I'm not going to split anything with this lady, and I'm only going to pay for myself and get her something simple. But if you really did not want to go and you wanted to stay out of this, I wouldn't blame you in the slightest. I think any reasonable person would be like, yeah, it kind of makes sense why you wouldn't want to go. And the best part about it is that you guys are all adults, and you really can just say, hey, I'm not going to be able to make it, but happy birthday, and then just move about your life from there. Like, she might still have a negative reaction if you do decide to go that route, but like, you know, you don't have to go, right? Like, I hope you know that you really can skip out on this if you really just don't want to go. You're definitely not being forced to go to this party, and it really is not that much of a high stakes situation. So hopefully this all works out for you in some kind of way, because honestly, the friend you're describing here doesn't really sound like a good friend, and I really don't think you would be missing much if you did skip out on the party. Am I the jerk for not going to my stepdaughter's birthday, all because they disinvited my son from attending? Because right now I am still very upset, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. My fiance is 33 years old and I am a 34-year-old female, and we've been together for 5 years going on 6. I was there for him for his addiction recovery and raised his daughter while he was in jail and homeless and in rehab. I have a son from a previous relationship who is 15 years old, and we have a son together who's 2 years old. This last weekend was his daughter's 13th birthday, and the day before, he messaged me to say that his daughter doesn't want my son at her birthday because her boyfriend is coming over. For context, my son and her boyfriend get along really well, and she feels that she's just gonna be left out on her birthday. So I messaged my fiance, and I said I would stop by and drop off her gift, but I'm not gonna be staying, as my son was excited about seeing his sister on her birthday, and he was also very sad that he wasn't invited anymore. Well, my fiance then got angry, stating that I was making a huge deal out of it, saying to me that she's allowed to have whoever she wants at her birthday, which, by the way, I completely agree with. She has every right to do whatever she wants on her birthday. But on that note, I have just as much of a right to not show up, all because my son was upset about being uninvited. That way, he can know that I will always have his back. His mom called me to find out what was happening, and I told her what he had said. Well, she told me that his daughter never said that she didn't want her brother there, and that we must come to the birthday party. But I said no because my son was already upset. I didn't tell my son that my fiance was the person who uninvited him, but he figured it out and asked me if it was my fiance and not his sister who didn't want him around. I ended up taking my son to the movies and the arcade, but when he saw his sister at the mall, he decided he didn't want to stay any longer, and we just straight up left. So I really need to know, am I the jerk for being upset about this whole situation? Because right now, things are incredibly messy. Man, that was seriously a plot twist. I can't believe the fiance is acting that way and being like, yeah, no, my daughter doesn't want you there. But in reality, it's the fiance that doesn't want the son there. Like, what is going on? That is so disgusting and weird. Like, why did he do that? Why would you do that to a 15-year-old kid? And then you're gonna lie and blame it on your daughter? Like, that is so insane to me. That is such a betrayal of trust. The fact that this guy would go against your son for literally no good reason, in my opinion, is just so unacceptable. And this is someone you're getting ready to marry. Like, I'm seriously left speechless that this guy would try and throw your son under the bus, and all without a solid reason why. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So no, you are definitely not the jerk. I would be very upset about this as well, because in my opinion, the way your fiance is acting is absolutely unacceptable. An entitled jerk gets his car scratched by one of our cars after he parks illegally near our property, and I'm honestly still blown away by this guy's entitlement after he tried to take us to court just to demand full compensation. Here's what happened. Okay, so I work at a car rental place that has a car wash next door. They were owned by the same guy though, and the car wash was essentially a side hustle with a bonus of being able to clean the rental cars. As such, we constantly drove in and out of the two lots. The gap between the two driveways was just big enough to fit a car, so it was a tight turn, made even tighter if a car was parked there. After discussing this with the city council, they agreed to paint the curb between the two driveways yellow, just to make it illegal to park there. But as you can probably imagine, people of course still parked there. One day, a guy with one of those obnoxiously large Fords parked there, and you know the type. It's the kind where it takes up multiple parking spots at the mall, the type of car that has an owner with a big ego and a very short temper. On that day, we had to clean a bus for a family on their way from the airport. They were ahead of schedule, so we had to move fast. One of my colleagues did his best to navigate around the Ford, but he couldn't do it, and he scraped a huge gash into the panel above a tire. Now, as I'm sure you can guess, when the owner saw this, he flipped out. We tried telling him that he shouldn't have parked there and that it's illegal, but he simply didn't care, because according to him, he has a big, expensive car, so he's allowed to park anywhere he wants. And he said that he chose this spot so that he was away from other people, thus reducing the risk of damage. And obviously, that didn't really work out for you, did it, buddy? Well, this entitled jerk demanded compensation, but we straight up refused. So fast forward, and this idiot actually took us to court. But thankfully, after all was said and done, he lost. The curb was yellow, so he definitely shouldn't have parked there. And as a result, he was ruled completely at fault. Yeah, that guy sounds like an obnoxious jerk. Seriously, the curb is yellow. It's yellow for a reason. That means you can't park there. I seriously can't stand when people act like that and then try to turn around and be like, oh, I can't believe you. Like, seriously, buddy? No, I can't believe you. Just literally move your car anywhere else and you could have avoided getting a scratch on your car. But clearly, entitled jerks like this can't see logic, because if he did, he could have avoided all of this trouble in the first place. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you like Am I the Jerk, make sure to subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.